ideal strategy with an ideal race winner and an excellent performance.
To save our home, we must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
Right there, Big Miranda Pedro Zuma into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone up into the barriers, coming up to the cutting.
David Todd making his way back up, has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, I spoke too soon there. Sandy goes up.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Todd passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to lead? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Todd right now going into the pit lane.
Carousel immediately, he gets punted off. That was Saavedra. Aguilar, he's gone off. He's been tapped and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin. Oh, no.
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lalum does have the inside track for the Swiss left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean as they come into the right hand. And this is it. Chris Lalum seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lalum takes it.
Out in the GT3 class. I am Kevin, and joining me alongside today we have Damon. Super excited to be back here, and like we mentioned, with this being the final ACC race of the season, I expect things to be absolutely crazy out here today. So it's been a long season. I mean, I say long season, it's 12 weeks out here. I can't believe we only have 1 week left, but like we said, being the last ACC race of the season, things are definitely heating up. We seen last time, just as a quick recap, we had Simone Seminara end his perfect run out in ACC. He had won every single race so far this season, only to get bested by the racetrack and end up into the wall. We'll have to see if he can come back today. Damon, you were mentioning this yesterday. This is the first time you're out here with us doing ACC specifically. What are you hoping to see today?
Well, I'm not particularly used to the actual format of the races, so it's going to be really interesting to see how it ends up becoming. 40-minute race with one mandatory pit stop. Bound to be some great action going to be happening there. And as you said before, Simon Seminara, great driver in ACC, almost perfect record if it wasn't for last time. So we see a bunch of drivers that are good, extremely proficient in ACC compared to iRacing. Definitely going to see a bit of a shakeup here.
And speaking of that too, so we do have a few people that are ACC specialists. We do have a few drivers that are coming in here from iRacing, definitely shaking it up. But like as always, make sure to follow all of our social media. Well, in the meantime, since, like I said, only 1 week left of the season, we'll be posting a lot of highlights, replays. But before we get into the qualifying session today with our drivers, we have a few things. Like we mentioned, the ACC format is a little bit different than we have for our iRacing races. One of the biggest differences is that those drivers, they do have the one mandatory pit stop out here. So the only AMX 5 race this season that has the mandatory pit stop, as well as instead of it being 2 20-minute heats, we have 1 40-minute heat as well. So like I said, I can't believe the season is almost over. We've been out here since May 25th, going all the way through next weekend, August 18th, with this season's prize pool of $15,000 plus next level racing gear. For Assetto Corsa Competizione, we have our 20-minute qualifying, followed by the 40-minute race. But with that too, like I said, everyone out here, you can get signed up anytime. Make sure if you are out on the track, our driver cams are required. Payouts are due in balances of $100 paid out every single month. Once you hit that $100 threshold, that money's headed your way. We're here every single Saturday and Sunday this season. And like I mentioned, if you want to get in on the action or just get the schedule, head over to amxrace.com. So we're here every single Saturday and Sunday starting at 5:50 p.m. GMT with a second race followed shortly after at 7:20 p.m. And every other week we're switching it up. On weeks like today, we are racing in the Assetto Corsa Competizione with the same schedule. But on the odd weeks, we are bringing back AMX 0 this season at 5:50 p.m. followed by the all-new AMX 20 at 7 p.m. And the ACC prize pool is a little bit different than the iRacing. So out here, it is all laid out on the line for the main race, with first place taking home $45, second place getting $30, third $27, and all the way down into 15th place, with the fastest lap getting an extra $4, coming to a total prize pool per race of $250. So a little bit higher stakes, a little bit higher payouts. These guys definitely have to focus on the main event. And speaking of the main event, here is what it's been about all season. Your current top 10 for AMX 5, starting down in 10th place, we have Diego Villarreal de Leon. 9th, Dino Filippa. 8th place, Toby Soriano. 7th place, Ralph Benitez. 6th place, Evandro Dantas. 5th, Pedro Dean. 4th place, Gaston Prestaculavi. And your top 3, starting in 3rd place, we have Jackson Asenje at 548.5 points. 2nd place, we have Bruno De Carmo, 568.5 points. And your current leader that's been dominating all season long, Gael Valero, sitting at the top spot with 627 points. So there's been a lot of back and forth, especially in the second half of the season with the leaderboard. And there's still room for Bruno De Carmo to possibly walk away with the championship. But with Gael's consistency, it's going to be hard to beat. Speaking of the champions, looking like our friends over at Next Level Racing Gear will be sending us a GT Elite as well as ERS3. I don't say us, I say the champions. So Gael Valero, being one of those champions last year, is very well in the contention, very much in the lead to be taking home this awesome prize this year. But enough about the prizes, enough about what is going on. Damon, one of the best tracks that is out here today. I think a lot of people know it, but for those that don't, let's tell them a little bit more about what we got going on today.
Yes, sirree. We are here at Autodromo Internazionale di Monza in Italy, opened in 1922, 102-year-old track, world class, world famous, all around the world. Most well known, of course, for hosting the Italian Grand Prix. Cars here, depending on what you drive, can go in excess of 200 miles an hour here, which is absolutely fantastic to see. We've got a lot of high-speed racing with a bunch of chicanes to cut off the action. And yeah, most of the time, the overtaking opportunities will happen on the long straights. And speaking of the cars that we will be taking on the track this time around, it is except of course the Competizione. Of course, we got to take on the GT3s, 500 to 600 horsepower rear-wheel drive monsters. Quite a bit of aerodynamics and downforce, but still going to be relying a lot on that mechanical grip with a sequential gearbox. Got a lot of different cars out on track today, a lot of different preferences in terms of what manufacturer you want to bag, but GT3s are always going to be heavy, going to be intense, and they will be absolutely amazing to watch on track. But enough about the cars, enough about me gushing over them. We should head straight in qualifying, don't we?
Absolutely. So qualifying these drivers, we'll have to see, like we said, now with just a few races left out here for AMX 5, it's definitely getting a bit tense. I know after yesterday's races, Gael Valero able to squeeze by just a little bit more of a comfortable lead. I believe Bruno De Carmo was roughly just under 50 points behind Gael Valero, but that has since grown another 10 points since yesterday's races. So we'll have to see, as both of those drivers are in here today. Looking out there, a lot of iRacing familiars. We have Bruno De Carmo, Nico Godoy, Gael Valero. We have Jacob Flantz out here, who we got to see previously. So there's quite a few people that we see time and time again. Definitely the man that we have been talking about all season long, every time we hop in ACC, Simone Seminara, the absolute legend and just a beast out here in the Assetto Corsa Competizione. So we've got to see him a little bit out in AMX 0. He's a little bit more fresh to iRacing, but don't let that fool you. He is absolutely one of the best sim racers that we've seen in AMX. Last week, well, not last week, about a couple weeks ago when we were here last for ACC, unfortunately, he was leading the race the entire time, showing his dominance that he usually does, only to be getting bested by a slight error in the track. Something got caught up with his tires and sent him all the way out into the wall, having to go back into the pits to repair, and unfortunately, that dropped him down several positions, breaking his perfect record for the season in ACC. So he's looking to come back out here today and redeem himself, and I believe he has what it takes. No doubt in my mind about that, but definitely the talk will also be between Bruno De Carmo and Gael Valero, where those guys finish on the podium.
Yeah, and I, as someone that's relatively new to how ACC works, definitely going to be a little bit of beefing issues for myself personally, get really in touch with how these drivers handle the cars on the track. And yeah, as you mentioned before, Simone Seminara are really looking good out on track right now. Still pretty far ahead of everyone else in terms of qualifying time, but again, we've got about 9 minutes left, so there's still time for anything to happen. And you can see Rachasin in the other spot here in Thailand. It looks like, yeah, one of the first times I've seen the Thai driver here look pretty good on track as well with the Bentley GT3 car, and does look like something really different out there, especially when it comes to outer racing. Actually, because they have 40 minutes on track, you have 1 minute for a pit stop, kind of like different aspects to in terms of skills required compared to iRacing, at least our iRacing sessions.
And just like that, I already know I'm probably going to butcher his name at some point, so I'll apologize ahead of time. But yeah, definitely one of the faces that we haven't seen out here in AMX. Like we said, we have a lot of familiar faces, and out here, Rachasin being one of those that we'll have to just see how he does out here in AMX. Like we said, that's one thing that I love about when we have people out here kind of getting involved, coming out to have fun, shaking things up, doing things a bit different. Also, the only driver out in the Bentley, so that should make things a little bit interesting too to see where that falls on the grid. But of course, here we have the French driver, Gael Valero, out here. One of the only guys that we see time and time again. He picks the Ford no matter what he's in. He's in ACC, he's in iRacing. This man absolutely loving the Ford, and I can absolutely say I think that's probably one of the best choices. You know, I may be a little bit biased being American, but I think, the Ford vehicles, top of the list. But nonetheless, it's not just about the vehicle, but the man being able to put it down out here. So a couple of people, Evandro Dantas also out here on the Ford, and we see a little bit of a spin right there back in the background. So we can see as we have about just over 7 minutes left in this qualifying session. So far, Gael Valero doing pretty good, but like we said, Simone Seminara holding off by over nearly a second and a half over most of the drivers. We have a few people out here, a couple of seconds too. So Bruno Di Carmo, he's been doing typically pretty good out here in Assetto Corsa Competizione. Like we said, a lot of these guys just trying to get used to the physics of the cars and the tracks, feeling a little bit different than iRacing. You have to really just have your driving style just be a little bit different. But we got to see, and I think one of the things yesterday, Bruno Di Carmo not having probably the best race. We got to hear him out in the interview room, got into a couple incidents with the other drivers, but after still apologized for a few of the incidents. We love seeing these guys. Definitely one of the biggest things out here is we have all these guys having fun, being good sports all the time. So great to see Bruno Di Carmo back out here fighting for those championship points in Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Yeah, and as Bruno explained yesterday, it's just easy to end up making unwanted mistakes, especially when you're stuck in the heat of the moment, you're busy battling with someone, maybe your peripheral vision isn't all there in terms of being aware of your surroundings, and things can happen, but that is just racing for you, and sometimes you just have to learn to live with that, those kinds of mistakes and improve from it. But yeah, aside from that, Nico Godoy, also a driver that we haven't really seen a lot of this season. He was a part of a lot of races at the AMX 0 last season, but yeah, great to see him on track this time around. But 7 drivers on the grid. Qualifying times are still pretty spaced out. We've got about 5 minutes left. I'm still waiting for another one of these drivers to be really out there pushing their cars to the absolute limit.
I see a lot of people out here, so big shout out to chat while we're out here too. You guys showing up every single week, being out here, showing a good job, cheering on all of the drivers. Yeah, that's what we see, getting Thailand out here today. All of you guys already cheering them on too. So that's what we love to see, as we are just under 5 minutes left here in this qualifying session. So we are almost all the way through. You, the drivers, getting a little bit better times now. Gael Valero less than a second off of Simone Seminara. We have Jacob Flans currently sitting in 7th place. The only driver, well, not the only driver actually out in a Nissan today. Simone Seminara is also out here in a Nissan. So we have a couple of guys. One thing that we've seen a lot is usually a lot of these guys out here in the McLaren. So that's odd to see only Bruno Di Carmo being the solo driver for McLaren. Nico Godoy, of course, he loves that BMW. We see him pretty much every single time out in the BMW as well. So great lineup of cars out here today. Of course, Monza being one of the most historic tracks out there, just celebrated their centennial anniversary a couple of years ago. So that too, definitely so many stories that this track has told, and now we get to tell even more out here for AMX.
Yeah, and I'm right now just noticing the spread of cars on the track. In terms of GT3 class, like when we see GT3 and iRacing, there's kind of a lot of variance in terms of what people prefer to drive. Like on iRacing, you probably see a lot of Ferraris, a lot of Lamborghinis, a few Mercedes, but I'm not seeing any of those here. So definitely in terms of the way the physics are different from iRacing, the cars themselves will probably be more skewed towards those as well. So maybe that's the reasoning behind choosing the cars they are. And like you, I'm also a little bit biased to the Ford here, and always looking forward to seeing some radical muscle, looking forward to the European group.
And one other difference too that we see a lot between iRacing and Assetto Corsa Competizione is ACC, a lot of the drivers that are doing in leagues or professionals, some of these higher end series, a lot of those guys we see out there using the low fuel motorsports, so kind of on par with the rating system. So iRacing has the rating system built in, their safety ratings, your iRatings, so kind of right away off the bat, making it a lot more natural for people in iRacing to kind of get a feel for that, where out here with ACC, some of the guys that want to take it a little bit more professionally, have a little bit better of a ranking system heading out to low fuel motorsports. So, and with that too, different BOPs. So iRacing, pretty much everything the BOP getting there, changing up quite a bit, especially for the official iRacing events. So the same thing out here. I know we've had a few drivers ask about that in the past of what's the BOP going to be, what's this. So great to see a lot of these drivers wanting to take this serious, and definitely a lot of great feedback. So we'll have to see. You know, we introduced ACC last year, had a pretty decent season, came back this year. So we'll have to see, like I said, a lot of things that the fans have to say, a lot of things that the drivers have to say, how things may change for future seasons and how things may stay the same. So one of those big things was with these drivers having to take a mandatory pit stop out here, that has definitely changed up the strategy just a little bit, and even rolled over into our iRacing series with the AMX 20. Those drivers also having to take a mandatory pit stop. So we're changing things up a little bit. Like I said, you guys are going to have to stay tuned when we have some announcements for what's going on next season. Right now, we don't have too much to say just yet, so you're going to have to stay peeled. But I can guarantee we're always trying to see what is going to be entertaining, what is going to be the most fun, and also I'm hoping to get some more time in next season and the seat just a little bit too. So we'll have to see. Like I said, I love being in the booth. I love being out on track. But Damon, as qualifying is coming to an end, do you have any predictions who you think may be taking home the win out here today?
I think, personally for me, I have a feeling that Simon Seminar not really too happy with the fact that his perfect run was ended last time around. So probably going to end up really making the charge for that next win here, especially when it comes to this being the last ACC race of the season. One blemish on the record is already bad enough. I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to go for two. But he's got a bit of competition here. We got Valero right behind him, and that's what the finish left at the end of qualifying. We're still seeing some times coming up on the board right now. Here is Ratasik Didiastikor. He has to have the point right now. He might have to know it doesn't look like he is. But yeah, slightly behind everyone else in terms of pace, but really gonna have to see how it actually ends up in the race, because in the race you have drafts, you have more opportunities to take and really capitalize on the pressure.
And with that, our qualifying is coming to an end. So we just have these guys finishing it up now. We see Bruno De Carmo already in the pits, as well as Itias Nikorn going out there. That's one thing that I'm a bit surprised with the Bentley, is going to see, of course, this one being a little bit heavier of a car, how that is going to affect his pace around here. So far, all these drivers still under 4 seconds from the top split, but definitely a little bit of a spread out here. No reverse grid out here for ACC. So unlike iRacing, we have them thrown into a reverse grid. ACC, we are not doing the reverse grid. It is the traditional, whoever gets pole is going to be leading the race, and that is looking like it is going to be Simone Seminaro once again out here. We see you guys out in chat too, cheering on Brazilian drivers. So of course, Bruno De Carmo, we're seeing him pretty much every single race. So say Gael Valero, Bruno De Carmo, now the rivalry has been heating up. I know those guys too. They've been racing against each other for a little while, as so have a lot of these other guys. So definitely that, I think, is going to be where I am probably going to see the things, I probably see things get heated up a little bit more, things be a little bit more interesting. I'd say my top pick for today probably would be our qualifying, sitting on pole position, Simone Seminara, but definitely going to have to keep an eye on the rest of the drivers. So there is your BenQ session winner. Once again, Simone Seminara dominating out here in the Nissan GTR Monza. Coming in second place, we have Gael Valero. Third place, Evandro Dantas. Fourth, we have Bruno De Carmo. Fifth, Godoy. Sixth, Lance. And seventh, Itias Nikorn. So definitely, although we only have 7 drivers out here today, we will have to see where this grid ends up after the race. So Damon, I mean, outside of that, we got to see a little bit in qualifying, just kind of where they're at. We also seen there a little bit of the handicap right there. So I mentioned the Bentley was definitely a little overweight, so they got to shave a little bit of weight off today to be a little bit more competitive. But definitely, what do you think is going to be the rivalry between Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo. Who do you think is going to come out on top of that rivalry today?
If you ask me, I think Kyle Valero has been the more consistent driver of the two over the course of the entire season, and I don't particularly see that changing anytime soon. So if it were up to me, I would probably give the edge to Valero, but we all know Bruno De Carmo can be really, really fast on a good day. So maybe today would be one of those days.
And that, I mean, just to play devil's advocate a little bit out here, I'm gonna go with Bruno. We've seen him last ACC race as well. Just barely bested Gael Valero by a couple positions. Like we said, last time we also had Lloyd Renier, which is last season's ACC champion, show up. So I mean, I guess it really depends. Any given day, any given track, you never know what can happen. Some races, Gael Valero has bested Bruno De Carmo. Other days, Bruno De Carmo has bested Gael Valero. So, like I said, although out here today, Gael Valero, he did end up on top right there in that second place during qualifying. We'll definitely have to see how things can change up on the dime whenever we get back onto the track with everyone out there. So now the drivers are making their short formation lap here. We'll have to see as Simone Seminara gets ready to go. So we're moments away from going green out here at Monza.
Yeah, and really looking forward to this. First AMX ACC race for me personally. 40 minutes, a lot of strategy going to be involved, especially in terms of when these drivers will decide to take their pit stops. Got to be finding a more favorable position for each of them here.
Green light,
And
show them what you got.
here comes the green light. The flags are off. Simone Seminara blistering quick off the line here as they're entering the start finish ring into the first chicane here at turn 1. Gal Valero holding on strong behind him as well. They're pulling away just a little bit in front of the other drivers, but Gal Valero is already swerving, forced to brake early. Simone Seminara brake checked him a little bit. But coming into the first chicane, looks like they're being okay, and a little bit of shunting going on there between the Fords of Ivan Fernandez and Gal Valero, but all of them managed to get it on skip, and that was a mistake on my end. Nico Bedoya that gave him a little bit of a shot, but he is now up there in the rankings as well. Bruno De Carmo is hanging back, waiting for another mistake to happen. We're still really early on in the lap, so still anything can happen, and the chicanes at Monza really slow you down there.
And there we can see Nico Godoy also getting in the mix of things. So right now is Simone Seminara followed by Gael Valero and Nico Godoy in the BMW sitting in that third place. So right there we've seen a little bit of back and forth between Godoy and Bruno De Carmo. I know usually you've seen a lot of these guys out here kind of running some of the factory liveries, running some of the liveries in the main ACC content. But definitely, Nico Godoy, you know, we've seen him out in qualifying. He was falling behind just a little bit. So with this one being a 40-minute race, it's a little bit more along the lines of an endurance race. Kind of have to have that mindset going in. Not quite the exact same sprint as we would if, you know, we had one of our other AMX 5 races of 20 minutes. That one you really have to just get every single opportunity out here. It's a little bit more about being consistent and patient. As you see right there now, going side by side, Bruno De Carmo looking to get the inside line out here over Nico Godoy, but maybe doesn't quite have the grip. Also, like I said, a lot of these guys, we're still trying to keep it pretty safe. These tires are still cold. Don't want to push it too much and end out, especially like we said, the day that Bruno De Carmo had yesterday. He was being very aggressive, and I know that is still in the back of his mind, saying, all right, you know what? It's a 40-minute race. I got to just be here, be patient, and now gets back alongside Nico Godoy as they go into turn 1.
Ooh, a little bit of a shunt there from Nico Godoy into the side of Bruno De Carmo, but Bruno De Carmo makes it cleanly ahead of him, and a great pass from him. Now the question is, of course, this being a 40-minute race, you're going to have to be really consistent and not go all out right at the beginning, because you end up getting tired, you lose your concentration, anything can still happen, but you don't want to lose too much energy just yet. But Bruno De Carmo making a good move there. I'm going to stay in third place for the time being as we're going over the curve. But Nico Godoy, not satisfied with that move, he's going to try and make another pass on him later on in the lap. As you see here, Andre Dantas is also battling with them for this P3 spot. Just waiting, making sure that they're not, their drivers ahead of making mistakes or slowing each other down to the point where he can make the move. Meanwhile, Francesco Kitty and Jake Plants at the back there, a little bit trailing behind, still less than a second behind the rest of the drivers here. And Bentley, being a pretty wide boy, is going to be a tough rookie to navigate on a course like this.
And there we can see a little bit of action going on between Nico Godoy and Evandro Dantas right there. Kind of getting a little bit of side-by-side action there, but nonetheless, Nico Godoy able to hold on to his position. So right now, we're just a couple laps into this. Simone Seminara so far starting to just get a little bit of a gap over Gael Valero, about 1.2 seconds, followed by third place, another big gap right there. Since we had Bruno De Carmo, Nico Godoy really fighting off the line since the very beginning of the race, that let Gael Valero start walking away just a little bit. So a little bit of gap between your top three drivers. But here right now we see another move between Evandro Dantas trying to overtake Nico Godoy in a beautiful move, just looking for the inside, but looks like he just brakes just a little bit early. And right there too, ooh, maybe a little bit of contact. So as he goes back, right into the side of Nico Godoy. So Evandro Dantas trying to get that position back, but unfortunately now just getting a little bit banged up. Now leaves room for Katniasikorn to be able to get back in there and now be in this fight as well.
Yeah, and I think Nico Godoy was pretty brave that to be braking so late to defend the outside of the first half that chicane in order to get the inside track for the second one. You see here, Katniasikorn a little bit unsteady with the bending there, looking like he went a little bit wide on the exit of that chicane. So probably going to lose a bit of time. He was pretty much in contention for that P3 spot earlier, but he dropped back a little bit. This battle, however, is slowing them down to the point where the other drivers in front are just completely pulling ahead. As you can see, Simon Seminara, he's somehow ended up in the back here. Wonder what happened. Could be a network issue, could be a crash. Can't really say for sure just yet. Oh, there you go, just spun off.
And there we go. One thing that I love about this track, just because it has so many high-speed sections to it, is that really it's a lot of that trying to overtake under braking, trying to see who is going to brake later going into the corners after those high-speed sections. So that definitely makes things interesting. But now we can see the car is starting to spread out just a little bit more. Nico Godoy still doing a great job of holding off Evandro Dantas. So, I mean, I'd say this is probably some of the most action we've had this early on in Assetto Corsa Competizione this season, outside of some of those incidents. So, like we said, lap one, the drivers were able to keep it pretty clean. That's something that I'd say a little bit surprising from AMX this season. Usually we almost always have some sort of incident, some sort of action going on lap one that these guys are getting spun off the track. But here we go, making the inside move goes Evandro Dantas over Nico Godoy. But cutting the corner, both of them cutting it just a little bit, getting over those curves. So we'll have to see as now Nico Godoy falling back one place. We'll have to see another thing that has plagued some of these drivers in ACC. We see the lights flashing right there saying, you know, you might not be a little bit too happy about how he got overtaken there. He's coming back. But like I was saying, some of the penalties. So since these guys have to make a pit stop, in the past we have seen some of them speeding in the pits, getting a stop and go penalty, getting 30-second penalties. That has been one thing that has plagued some of these drivers. So definitely the pit stop playing a huge role out here today too. I expect the same thing to be happening.
Yeah, and I think both of them just straight up misjudged that braking zone, and Katniasikorn just straight up misjudged the grip of his car as he just goes into the barrier of his own collision, and unforced error there will put him now at the back of the pack. And yeah, honestly, the most I've seen in terms of incidents that happen in Monza is specifically at turn one after the start-finish straight, because when you're really concentrating hard, sometimes you just end up missing the braking zone completely, especially when you're battling with another driver. And it's just what happened between these two as they're coming there. So don't know what penalties they're going to end up incurring because of that cut, but for the time being, Evandro Dantas pulling ahead of Nico Godoy here, 0.7 of a second speed them, but way ahead of him is Gael Valero, just so far having the time of his life in the front.
Yeah, just like that, one thing that we didn't really mention, but looking at the timing screen is Simone Seminara, the leader of the group, he has cut out. So we might have to see, check in with him, see what happened, if he may have possibly lost connection. But like we said, just like that, that puts Gael Valero up into first place, Bruno De Carmo in second, Evandro Dantas in third. So we'll have to see if something happens that Simone Seminara gets back in this race, or if that might just be it for him. The driver that we've seen all season long just absolutely dominating. That is such an unfortunate way to end your ACC this season. You know, I mean, that's, yeah, man, it's just hard to be in that position. I can't say I've been there personally. I think I've had that happen maybe one time in iRacing, in some of just the official races going on. But to be out here fighting for points, fighting for money, fighting for everything, just wanting to lay it on the line, be able to redeem yourself. Unfortunately, Simona Seminara may no longer have that chance to redeem himself after the last ACC race.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate for him. But on the flip side, Valero here going to really be happy with this result if he ends up finishing in first here. Again, extending the gap between him and Bruno De Carmo ever so slightly further. It's about 40 points that separate these two drivers right now. After this, the gap could be extended a lot more. And the points matter so much more because this is, I think, the second to last weekend of AMX Racing Season 5. Next weekend will be the last 2 race days, and if Bruno De Carmo doesn't catch up anytime soon, he's not going to have another chance.
Yeah, so right here we have about 30 minutes left in this race, so we're about a quarter of the way through, and definitely with the in-game it's looking like about 5:11 p.m. So with the sun setting, with things from now on, it looks like things should slightly start getting a little bit cooler out there on track. So hopefully these guys start getting a little bit more comfortable now that there's a bit of a gap between all the drivers. But like you said, Gael Valero, nearly a 10-second gap. You know, Bruno De Carmo is really going to have to pull something out of his hat if he wants to catch back up. So we'll have to wait and see. Like we said, anything can happen in the pit stops. Really, the biggest thing I think right now is going to be Gael Valero keeping it clean. But speaking of pit stops, the first driver there, Nico Godoy, making his mandatory pit stop, saying, all right, I'm going to get this one out of the way, get back on track, and just try to get in the zone, see if he can catch back up. We've seen him battling it out with Evandro Dantas earlier, so I think that is really what he's hoping for come the end of the race. Get back up another position. But like we said, just a quick reminder on the timing screen, the little orange box with the 1 in it shows how many pit stops the driver has to take. So now Nico Godoy, you can see that box has turned green on the timing screen. So the first driver out of the pits, pretty quick pit stop too. So out here at Monza, these drivers aren't going to be losing too much time when they go into the pits.
Yeah, pit lane at Monza is relatively short compared to how much speed the other drivers can gain. What I'm not really 100% sure about is pitting so early in the race. You're only about 10 minutes in and you're already coming in. If you're not changing anything, that's all well and good, but my logic would probably be, if I'm going to take that mandatory pit stop, I might as well get some new tires, so I'll come in a little bit late, get as much of a gap as I possibly can, and then try and hold it off until the very end. However, Nico Godoy has got other plans here. We'll have to see if that works out for him.
Yeah, one thing that I can't say we have seen all season long is most of the drivers, it kind of seems like if they are leading the pack, they want to save as much time as they can, kind of wait until the very last minute to hit the pits. And I think we're going to expect that from Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo, just seeing the gap between them. But also, like you mentioned, wanting to go and have a bit of a fresh set of rubber. I think out here in the races, these guys are able to hold on to the tires just long enough for these 40-minute races that it's not really, as we see Jacob Flantz, they're having a bit of an issue, ended up overshooting his pit, now having to reverse back and get into the pits. So the first driver of the day that we've seen with a little bit of pit issues. So hopefully he doesn't get any penalty sitting in the pits, but we'll just have to wait and see. So right now, 2 drivers, a couple of the drivers from the back of the pack. I think, like you mentioned, Damon, some of them a little bit different. I think really the biggest strategy that we've seen mostly is either wait until the very last minute, or if you're battling it out and you know you're losing time, just hit the pits, try to get some clean air once you exit, and just do whatever you can to catch back up. So these drivers not too concerned out here today with their tires, maybe a bit of a splash and dash just to get back out on the track. But here we go as Bruno De Carmo and Evandro Dantas. Now, Evandro Dantas doing a great job of closing back in on that gap, and now we have a battle going on for P2.
Yeah, as they're right about entering the final hairpin just before the start-finish straight here, Bruno De Carmo all of a sudden just has a lot of pressure on the back of him, of Evandro Dantas there, and Evandro Dantas just breathing down his neck. His idea was to keep his pace at a relatively consistent pace as Evandro Dantas took that exit a little bit too wide there, but managing to maintain his speed still holding on. He has the draft here, so he could try and look for a move before they enter the turn 1 chicane. And it looks like might just do the same. They're pulling alongside each other. This is a braking test. See who's brave enough on their brakes. And Evandro Dantas cuts Bruno De Carmo off as they're entering turn 1. Makes that pass clean. Will Bruno De Carmo be able to recover that position and switch it back afterwards? No, it doesn't look like he does. Evandro Dantas just has that line on lock. Now Bruno De Carmo is the tail, and he's going to have to chase down Evandro Dantas here.
Yeah, looking at him right here, I mean, even though he's behind him and may have somewhat of a draft, just that McLaren is slowing down quite a bit from what it seemed like earlier. So I'm not sure if, one of those things just being the car of maybe, hey, the McLaren is just at a mechanical disadvantage here, or if we might have missed something off screen. If, one thing, especially going into turn 1, if you cut those corners a little bit too hard, you hit some of those curbing just a little hard, that right there may have caused a little bit of damage. So we'll have to see, because like we said, it's very unlike Bruno De Carmo to be losing this pace on the car. So now we can see Evandro Dantas just keeps gaining and gaining, especially on these straights. So, we can see him. He's a little bit, I wouldn't say frustrated, but he's just kind of like, hey man, it is what it is. So hey Bruno, if you're listening into the stream, a big shout out to you. And but yeah, like we said, being the only McLaren driver out here today, definitely we've seen him favor that car in some places. Like the last time we were out at, I believe Silverstone was the one that it definitely benefited over some of the other vehicles, but just as well. So Evandro Dantas, like we always say, it isn't over until it's over. I think these two are going to be battling it out here for quite a while, especially to see what the strategy is between them, who's going to take their pit stop first, when they're going to take it, and how that is going to affect the outcome of this race.
Yeah, and as you speak about outcomes, Simone Seminara is back in the grid, it looks like. However, 6 laps down, he's really going to have a problem here. Doesn't look like he'll be able to make that timeout. We've got less than 25 minutes left in this race here. And Gal Valero being so far ahead already on his 8th lap. Halfway through his 8th lap, actually, the gap between him and Evandro Dantas is just so massive. But Dantas putting away for Bruno De Carmo here. Relatively uncharacteristic of Bruno De Carmo to be losing this much time here.
So there we see, like you mentioned, Simone Seminara being back on the track. I mean, hey, it's great to see him come back out here. And as everyone can see, the little purple on the place marker next to his name on the timing screen. So that little purple marker meaning that he has set the fastest lap. So although he had cut out for quite a while, he is getting back on track now. We'll have to catch up with him later to see. I mean, really at this point, he's just going to try and gain as much pace as he can back. Just really be out here, make sure he doesn't have a DNF, and just see if he can hold down that fastest lap time at this point. But it should be interesting to see what happens, where he comes out of the pits, and definitely if he's going to be a back marker for Gael Valero. So, seeing the sportsmanship between a lot of these guys, I don't expect him to be battling out anyone. So we'll have to see if he gets together with any of the other drivers and maybe work together, form a bit of a train with some of the other guys, have some draft so that way they can catch back up to Gael Valero. But like we said, it's all speculation right now. We're just going to have to wait and see, as we are just over 23 minutes left in this race. You can see Gael Valero out there on the comms with someone, so maybe one of his teammates, maybe talking to someone else in the race, but nonetheless has a great advantage over the other drivers, over 16 seconds right now over Evandro Dantas.
Yeah, and this means that when he actually finally does go into the pits, he'll be relatively comfortable. I'm not entirely sure how long the pit stop is going to take or how much the delta would be if he actually steps out of it. But with the amount of time that he's gaining at this point in time, once he finally decides to make his pit stop, he'll probably be in a relative comfortable position, because Dantas and Bruno De Carmo also have to make their pit stops as well. So I don't want to jinx it by saying it too early, but he might already have this one in the bag.
Yeah, like we said, we've seen that before, and as he stares at the camera, he knows he has this one as long as things stay very clean. Definitely. That is one thing that we seen last time, too, was with Simone Seminara leading by a significant margin, only to be bested by a glitch in the track itself. Unfortunately, I know last time Amir had mentioned that has been part of that track for quite a while. One of the final turns, just littlest part of the track going wide on one of the turns, and unfortunately, it was like he got flung like a slingshot all the way into the wall, had to pit for repairs. So like I said, Gael Valero looking very comfortably, but he knows he is a pro out here in the sim. Definitely knows never to get too comfortable. Just run your race, look forward, don't worry about anyone else, and we'll have to see, because there's 20 minutes left to see who is going to be sitting atop that podium. If Gael Valero holds on to it, this is going to be his first Assetto Corsa Competizione race, and even further proving why he was last season's champion and why he's looking to very much be this season's champion once again.
Yeah, we're going to have to find a way to nerf him, but Gael Valero is a man you just can't keep down. As you can already see here, the gap between him and Evandro Dantas again extending by about half a second this time around. 16.5 seconds separating. So we know Bruno De Carmo is still trying to catch up to Evandro Dantas here, which leads me to believe that the Mustang might have a little bit of an advantage on this track.
Yeah, definitely one of those things that I feel like some of the more technical turns we see giving a bit more advantage to something like the McLaren or even the Ferrari in some of these other tracks. But out here today, the Ford's absolutely dominating. We've seen a couple of the guys now, Jacob Flantz, Simona Seminara. I can't say that the Nissans were really at an advantage or disadvantage. We've seen what it could do in the hands of Simona Seminara as well as Jacob Flantz. So right now we have another driver going into the pits. That's going to be Kyrios Korn headed in there in the 911 Bentley. So like we said before, the only Bentley driver, he had a little bit of an incident early on, kind of spun out, didn't have as much grip. And that's one thing, like I said, with this car, it just being such a boat of a car, we got to see earlier with the balance of performance. So a little bit of weight savings got to be saved, but still that doesn't take away from how large the car it is itself. So here he goes as he's here. It may look like, I'm not sure if he is getting some extra fuel, though. He is taking a little bit longer in the pits than we've seen our two other drivers previously, but also getting a little bit quick water break there as well. So we have to see him out here. We'll see where he lands on the final grid as well, as we are just under the halfway point out here. AMX Season 5, our finale of our final ACC race out here of the season.
Yeah, and ooh, couldn't have left the pit lane fast enough, because you can see the cars with Jacob Flantz and in the back marker there. Might have been Gael Valero at the back catching up to him now, so he's gonna have to try and pull away yet again. It is that is actually the Mustang of Evandro Dantas and Bruno De Carmo, so it wasn't Jacob Flantz that he was worried about, but he is going to end up being a back marker for these two drivers in contention for P2 right now. So it has to be up to him to let these two other drivers pass him safely.
Oh, and looking right there too. So it looks like he now has a stop and go penalty. So I'm not sure if he was end up speeding out of the pits or going into the pits. Ooh, we see Evandro Dantas right there cutting the corner too. So we'll see if Dantas might get a penalty for that. That was a pretty big cut into that corner. Like we said with Kyrios Korn, the stop and go 30-second penalty. So unfortunately, that is going to put him even further back down, leaving room possibly for Jacob Flantz to catch up and pass him going on. But right now he is in the crosshairs of Evandro Dantas. Like we said, being a back marker right now, Evandro Dantas about to lap him. So we'll have to see. He knows he may get the blue flag saying, hey, let these drivers by. They are a lap up on you. And also one driver we haven't seen for a little while, kind of out on his own, is Nico Godoy out there in the BMW. So Nico Godoy still leading the pack as far as the drivers go that have already pitted. Right now, kind of just like we said, sitting out all on his own, running his own race currently. So sometimes that can be a good thing. Sometimes that cannot be a good thing. Either you get in the zone, really just focus on setting down some quick lap times, or sometimes you start to zone out a little bit, maybe miss the braking. I know from personal experience, I don't like being alone out on the track that much, because that's when I start making mistakes, getting too comfortable. I definitely like having someone right there to be able to push me, to be able to kind of keep pace with, kind of see where our lines are and really have that competitiveness. But right now, Nico Godoy sitting very comfortably right in that fourth place position.
And here you go, Kyrios Korn is back into the pit, serving his stop and go penalty. I wonder if it might have something to do with the fact that he may have exceeded the pit limit, pit speed limit, which is probably why he ended up in that penalty. But no time to dwell on it. We'll just have to find out later on. But this 30 seconds is going to be big for him. He's currently in 5th, but Jacob Flantz not that far behind. Actually, it does look like he is pretty far behind, but can still make a lot of time in 30 seconds. Meanwhile, the cars in front, yeah, as you mentioned, Nico Godoy here on his own island here in P4. And I agree with you. Sometimes I don't really like to be alone on the track because lapse in concentration make the smallest mistakes. And here is Jacob Flans right now. He's just about to cross the start-finish straight. Will he be able to catch up to Kitty Asikon as he's exited pit lane? It does look like it. He's catching him out. Caught them on the exit. Kitty Asikon not going to be too happy with that, in fact. And really unfortunate for him. But now he has to chase back Jacob Flans. Look to see if he'll make a mistake and then capitalize on it.
So definitely we might end up seeing a battle towards the back of the pack right here between Jacob Flans and Kitty Asnikorn. But I still see the penalty still on there, so it might not have cleared. He might have waited there. We'll have to wait and see exactly what happened. Like we said, unfortunately, that is one thing I was mentioning earlier on, is we have seen the penalties plague some of these drivers. That's one of the things that we've seen before. I believe a couple of races ago, Nico Godoy also having some issues in the pits and having to sit back there, dropping down several places. So, you know, it's definitely a little bit different, especially if these drivers are used to iRacing and they come into Assetto Corsa Competizione. The penalties just a little bit different than what they may be used to, but we'll have to see, as that is still showing up exactly what happens to Kitty Asnikorn. Is now Jacob Flans flying through here. So I'd say the GTR, probably one of my favorite real life cars. I know hasn't been ran as much. We don't get to see it out on track that much, not as popular, especially when we have new vehicles like the Mustang GT3 out here. Brand new vehicle this season in real life, now getting put into Assetto Corsa Competizione a few months back, as well as recently being put into iRacing. So definitely has been one of the favorite cars that we've seen so far out on track. And now Gael Valero looks like he has about a 19-second gap between himself and Evandro Dantas. So like we said earlier, he was about 10 seconds, then 12 seconds, and now with 15 minutes left in this race, he already has over 20 seconds. So this man could possibly even go get new fresh tires if he wanted to, pretty much do whatever he wants as long as he keeps it clean on the track, which we've seen. I have no doubt that he's going to be able to do that.
Yeah, and with this gap that Gael Valero has, he doesn't even if he takes a pit, he doesn't really have to worry about the cars of Dantas and Carmo undercutting him, because they still have to take their pit stops as well. And I was gonna ask this like 10 minutes ago, but we were so caught up in what happened earlier on that I didn't get to pose this question. So Kevin, say you were on this track yourself, you're part of this race right now. What would be your particular strategy, like, for yourself in terms of pitting?
I mean, like I said, I'd say the biggest thing, kind of depending on where you are at the moment. If we're going as far as like our top three drivers currently, with the split between them, I think really the safest thing still is to be waiting until the last moment. I think, especially out here now, seeing the position that Bruno De Carmo is in, he's dropped just over 4 seconds behind Evandro Dantas. I think right now, just try to keep it safe. He's not really in any worry of anyone catching up to him right now. He's not really in the midst of traffic. So really just trying to focus on setting the fastest laps. You can just see right there, Evandro Dantas just heading off screen. So, you know, just under 4 seconds is just enough to, all right, maybe start pushing yourself, try to really see where you can get a little bit more grip out here. But as well, I'd say, unless there's traffic, just wait for the driver in front of you to maybe start making mistakes. And especially that, I'd say the mindset is, right there, Bruno De Carmo getting a little bit squirrely. And that's one thing that is a little bit harder, I'd say, probably compared to the Mustangs around this course than the McLaren, is that McLaren does love to get tail happy. If you get into that throttle just a little bit, just has the act to oversteer. So that's why I said one of those, if you can control that, definitely pays for the tracks that have those more technical corners, being able to just trail brake absolutely perfect, nail that, be right on the edge of oversteer. But out here with some of these more high speed corners, definitely can get a little bit tricky out in this car. But like you said, strategy, I think, is what these drivers are doing. My strategy would be the same, just kind of wait until you have to pit, unless he catches up to Evandro Dantas. Then at that point, I'd say don't battle it out, get the pit, try to get the undercut, and then go back out there. But I think with everyone, how close they are, with the exception of Gael Valero now with 20 seconds, definitely don't take tires, go in, maybe a splash and dash, and head back out on track. Try to do what you can do.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned the McLaren itself being tail happy because, of course, being mid-engine is also one thing that you really have to consider. As Dantas does another cut on to turn one there. Really, it's a couple of times that he's already misjudged the braking points there. Could be due to tire wear, but I think it was just a simple miscalculation here. And we haven't really seen him having to do any penalties there, so I'm not entirely sure what will happen to him later on at the end of the race, but there it is. He's still pretty far ahead of Bruno De Carmo, and that little incident that Carmo had with his car losing the back of his car just a little bit really slowed him down compared to Dantas here. And going back to my original point is that mid-engine cars like McLaren, they do definitely have a tendency to chew through their rear tires a lot more than, say, the front engine of the Mustangs.
Yeah, and speaking about that, so just it's typically what we've seen out here, a 40-minute race, that is right on the edge of when your tires are starting to wear and not starting to. So we've seen most drivers not really take any new tires this season, and even last season it seems like that was a pretty rare occurrence unless they did something that absolutely just shredded their tires. So I think that's going to be more of the same today. But now we're checking back in with Nico Godoy, who has been sitting in that 4th place position for most of the race. Like I said, just kind of out on his own, just doing his own thing, running his own race. Once he kind of dropped back earlier on, he's just kind of been there, hit the pits earlier than the other drivers. So we'll have to see if that is going to be enough space where that puts him once the top 3 drivers do end up taking their pit stops. But now too, we do still see Simona Seminara out there on the timing. So now looking like he's about 6 laps off the pace. Kitty Asukorn about 2 laps down. Nico Godoy. So we'll have to see where these drivers end up towards the back of the pack as well. Just gonna make it a little bit more interesting. Like I said, the unfortunate incident that happened earlier on, Simona Seminara getting disconnected from the race right after the first couple of laps and coming back, at that point it was too late to really have a shot at getting back on the podium. So he's really just trying to do what he can, make sure to not get a DNF. And hey, right now with only 6 drivers currently on the grid, he's still going to end up with at least some points headed his way, some money headed towards his account.
I find it really interesting that you mentioned 6 drivers because we had 7 and Jacob Platz is nowhere to be seen.
So yeah, I was thinking about that too. As soon as I said 6, I was like, that does seem a little bit odd, but yeah, went back to our qualifying thing. So Jacob Flantz now back in it. So not sure if he is having a bit of connection issues as well. So we see him now currently dropping into 6th place. So Jacob Flantz, the other Nissan driver out here today. Now we have the 2 Nissans still in the back of the pack. Both of them having a bit of unlucky issues today. So I'm not sure if the Nissan GTR might be a little bit cursed out here today at Monza. Both of those drivers having some connection issues, disappearing off the track, and now they are both back in the very last 2 spots. So I guess it's a bad day to be a Nissan driver today.
Yeah, unlucky because I really like the R35. It's one of my favorite, all-time favorite cars on track. And to see it being cursed to this extent really is unfortunate to see. But can't dwell on it for too long because we are down to our final 10 minutes of the race. In fact, we've got 8 minutes and 30 seconds left on the race timer. Top 3 drivers still haven't taken their pit stops yet. So we're going to have to start looking out for those. Gael Valero a clean 20 seconds ahead of Dantas and Bruno De Carmo. Could be looking to find a nice time to just sit in the pit stop. Maybe even have time to get some new tires.
And that too, speaking of that, so we do have a second race coming up after this where we are hopping back into iRacing, and definitely it has become one of my favorite tracks. We're going to be heading out to Algarve in the GTP cars later on. So definitely I know a lot of these guys, especially I expect Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo to be in those races as well, since they are both battling down for championship points. So hopefully we get to hear from one of those drivers after the race. But like I said, I know they definitely want to hop into iRacing, try to get there. And Gael Valero especially wants to even further his lead. Looking like he's going to do that out here in ACC today, get even more points over Bruno De Carmo and just extend that lead. So at the end of today, so I was doing a bit of calculations earlier, looks like running into next week's races, if Gael Valero is able to get more than 90 points over Bruno De Carmo, he will be our unofficial season champion once again. So definitely the points there. I'm not sure if he's listening onto the stream, but definitely one of those things to say, all right, time to double down, time to focus. And if he can get that lead, he can get the championship 1 week early. So we'll just have to wait and see on there. Like we said, anything can happen, especially going from ACC into iRacing. We'll have to see who shows up later on today. Yesterday for the second race, we had a few more participants than the first, and I expect to see that today. We had also yesterday going on a lot of these drivers out there doing the VCO IndyCar Challenge as well. So another high level race with VCO Esports that I always love whenever we see what they put on. They have some of the official races, one of the main sponsors for iRacing. So getting to see some of these guys, some of the teams out there, they were racing yesterday, so we don't have that going on today. We'll have to see what comes on later up. But right now, just over 6 minutes left in this race of the final Assetto Corsa Competizione race, where it looks like Gael Valero may be very well getting his first ACC race out here in AMX.
Yeah, a clean 26 seconds ahead, and I'm glad you mentioned the VCO thing, VCO race, because what this tells me is that just sim racers in general are busy bees. They love racing so much, they want to do it all the time, and it definitely pays off for them. And also, you mentioned the fact that they will be, some of these drivers will be transitioning back into iRacing from ACC, so doing these two different games back to back probably end up taking a little bit of time to get used to it. But if anyone can do it, it is of course Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo here. Still about 5 seconds behind Evandro Dantas, but remember, about 5 minutes left into the race, and they still haven't taken their pit stop yet.
Yeah, and as well as that, so one thing, well, like I said, 5 minutes in the race, so the pace that these guys are running at, right now, I say they're just under about a minute 50, around a minute 50. So that seems to be kind of right now with some of the tire wear off, some of the things. But like we said, with the time going, the track may be cooling down just a little bit compared to where we were earlier on. Now being 5:37 in the game. But definitely as the shadows are casting, we see Bruno De Carmo here in third place. I'm trying to get a look at who that is in front of him, but nonetheless, still about 5.5 second gap between him and Evandro Dantas. So that looks like that is Kidiasnikorn in the Bentley, still in front of Bruno De Carmo. So like we said, he had a couple of penalties. He had that stop and go, had to go, went in to serve it. The penalty did not clear, so he had to get back into the pit. So a bit of an unlucky day right now, as we can see. Looks like he has the fan blowing on him. I know a lot of these drivers out here, especially depending on where you live in the world, definitely getting the hottest part of the day out here. But we'll have to see. I think this may be where we see our top three. Like we said, they still have their pit stops, but since the top three, none of them have taken the pits. As long as they don't have anything go wrong, we may very well be seeing Gael Valero, Evandro Dantas, and Bruno De Carmo sitting atop the podium.
Oh, Kidiasnikorn goes back into the barrier there. That's really unfortunate. He's really not got a handle on that Bentley and the limits of its mechanical grip. So plows himself into the barrier yet again, so he's not very too happy with that. I honestly couldn't blame him. No, it is currently almost 3 a.m. in Thailand on a Monday, so that could play a factor into it. Regardless, however, he's still not going to be too happy with that. Though the P5 is still a not terrible position to be in. You still get a pretty decent amount of reward money and points as well, so you're really not losing too much. And Gael Valero here taking his pit finally with about 3 minutes left in the race timer. We'll have to see if Evandro Dantas and Bruno De Carmo will do the same. And yes, Dantas goes into pit. Bruno De Carmo, will he try for the undercut? He's got 6 seconds before we find out. No, they all take their pits on the same lap here. So Gael Valero now going to be pulling ahead yet again in front of these drivers. Big time gap between these two.
Yeah, and seeing there, I think that might have been the smartest strategy. Like we said, just as much as a lead that Gael Valero had over the other two drivers, you know, they definitely would have been cutting it close on that last lap. They would have probably just enough time, like we said, with about 3 minutes whenever they went into the pit stop. They could have gotten one more lap in, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. And now, here, this leaves room for Bruno De Carmo to get back onto Evandro Dantas. So we'll have to see, as long as Evandro Dantas doesn't get it. And oh no, it looks like a drive-through penalty is now being thrown for Bruno De Carmo. So unfortunately, we see that popping up on the timing screen. We'll have to see right there what happened with the drive-through, if he might have gotten a little bit outside the pit box, or if he may have just been a little bit fast. Not too sure what happened there, but unfortunately, just a heartbreaking thing towards the end of the race, what may be the final lap with a drive-through penalty. So just gut-wrenching right there. So we'll have to see, though, as there's still a 38-second gap between himself and Nico Godoy, if that is enough to take that drive-through and still be ahead. But here we see, actually, now that the timing is updated, about a 3.9-second gap there. So, man, just a heartbreak, especially when championship points are on the line, to have something like that. But that is probably one of the biggest things that we've seen in ACC compared to iRacing, is just those penalties can be absolutely ruthless.
Yeah, and because we don't get too many penalties in iRacing itself, at least not the ones that we can visibly see from the commentators group, it might put some of these drivers who are primarily iRacing veterans to be a little bit, I don't want to use the word reckless, but that might be applicable in certain instances here. But we got down to the last minute here. Now Valero still very, very comfortable, but Bruno De Carmo having to take the driving penalty. Is going to get the pass on him. Really unfortunate position, especially if he's been in P3 for nearly the entire race.
And that as well. So, I mean, one of the other drivers that is also in the top 10 in the championship points, currently sitting in 6th place, is Evandro Dantas. So this right here being in 2nd place, definitely also going to help him with his overall championship points. Like we said, it's been a battle between the top 3 drivers of Gael Valero, Jackson Asenge, and Bruno De Carmo. So with Jackson Asenge not being out here too, that is going to also split that gap between Bruno De Carmo and Jackson Asenge. Of course, those 2 drivers being the teammates, as we see now, De Carmo going through the pits, serving his drive-through penalty. So we'll have to see, as that leaves just enough room for Nico Godoy to get into that 3rd place position, as now the clock has gone. So we're just waiting for Gael Valero to cross the checkered flag, and still with nearly a 30-second gap, Simone Seminaro was dominating earlier on. I really wish we would have been able to see a battle go on between him and Gael Valero for the lead, but it's looking like so far Gael Valero unofficially coming in that 1st place position, just has to cross the checkered flag, and Evandro Dantas, Nico Godoy sitting in 2nd and 3rd. Man, this was definitely a turn of events going out in here. Simone Seminaro disconnecting and unfortunately not able to redeem himself from the last one. But I'd say so far, Damon, I mean, what has been your highlight of this race so far?
It's really hard to say, but the masterclass of driving from Gael Valero would probably be my particular highlight. We didn't see much of it on the track because we were hyper fixated on the other drivers, letting Gael Valero do his own thing. But with this race victory and the fact that Bruno De Carmo got knocked down to 4th place, after today he might have cemented himself as the unofficial champion. He does still have one more week of racing though, but if he does end up pulling away from Bruno De Carmo tonight, it is merely a formality for him.
So there we see as these guys continuing to go across the checkered flag. Gael Valero in 1st place, so big congratulations. And I know he's just the sigh of relief after that, the look on his face saying, all right, I made it through it. And now Gael Valero further proving why he is currently leading the championship, why he won championships last season, why he's a repeat championship winner. He is going into this thing, and like I said, Bruno De Carmo just getting a bit unlucky there, having that drive-through, just missing the podium. But man, nonetheless, these drivers putting on another great show out here. Definitely not how I expected the ACC finale to be this season. Last season, it was a points battle, very close between Loïc Renier and Simone Seminara, as letting Simone Seminara and Loïc Renier battle it out. We got to see them battle it out last time we were here in ACC as well. But with this turn of events, definitely I know Gael Valero is going to be happy about getting an ACC win, being one of the first drivers to say, all right, I've been doing what I do out in iRacing, and now I can come out here to Assetto Corsa Competizione and do exactly the same thing, come out on top, show why he is one of the best drivers in AMX.
Yeah, Guy Valero definitely making his mark here as one of the legends here at AMX. I want to say legends, but he is still a part of it. So, and he doesn't look like he's going to slow down anytime soon. Definitely one of our best drivers here, and well, at this point, let's hope the next season gives him a little bit more competition, eh?
Oh, absolutely. And this is just another reason, too, why he is one of the fan favorites. We see people out there cheering on Gael Valero every single time. But here we come in as everyone now, your race standings at the end of the race. Of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Gael Valero being your BenQ session winner, followed by second place, Ivandro Dantas, and in third place, Nico Godoy. Both of them doing absolutely amazing. Nico Godoy sitting in fourth place most of the race, and unfortunately Bruno De Carmo ending up in fourth after he had a drive-through penalty to serve. In fifth place, we have Kitiasny Korn, one of the guys that has been a bit newer to AMX out here, sitting in fifth place. Jacob Flans in sixth, and unfortunately Simone Seminara, who got disconnected, coming back on, sitting in seventh place, as well as getting the fastest lap. So, like I said, I can't stress this enough, man. I don't think I expected this to go how it went, but definitely I want to still say a huge congratulations, Gael Valero, coming out on that top step. So we'll have to see if maybe we can get a word from them real quick. I know a lot of these drivers may be getting ready for the next race coming in, so we'll have to just wait and see who we get in. But Damon, what would you say in 2 words or less how this race went for you?
2 words or less. Oh man, that's tough. As expected is not the words I use. Maybe unexpected, but because of Simone Seminara's unfortunate incident, as well as Bruno De Carmo's unfortunate drive-through penalty, pretty big twists in terms of results.
Yeah, I definitely see that. Like I said, I'm sure Gael Valero happy to get the win. Maybe not quite like this. I know a lot of drivers always want to fight for the win, always want to have a battle, but nonetheless, it doesn't take away from the amazing performance. Still being able to get nearly 30 seconds over all of the rest of the field is definitely a big feat in itself. So we'll have to see. Like I said, I know these drivers getting ready very soon for the next race, as well as us. Man, it's just absolutely crazy. I hope we see more of what this comes in the next race. So not necessarily the drivers disconnecting, because no one wants to see that, but more of expecting the unexpected to happen in our race coming up here very soon. So big congratulations to Gael Valero. I'm sure we will see him in the next race as well as everyone out there watching. Make sure to not go anywhere. Follow all of our social medias. We have them pop up periodically on the screen. We're on X, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok. All of the social medias there that you can see, as well as you can check our website to hit the race. If you want to get in on here the last weekend of the season, we still also have AMX 0 coming up next weekend. It's definitely been fun, and we'll see how many people we get there, as well as the conclusion of AMX 20. But make sure to not go anywhere, guys. We have another race, like I said, heading out to Algarve in the GTP. It is always a great time in those cars. So make sure, stick around, and we'll see you very shortly.
We go racing for heat number 1 here in Austria. Over AMX 20 in towards the nicking outer curve, bumping and banging and into the wall. That is a horrible crash. That's a huge lunge from Gaston Calabi, and he's made contact with, I believe, oh wow, it's a chaotic moment here. And slipstream in front for either car, and you can just see Metazuba pushing Florian Labigra right over.
Here we go then, Valeri, he looks left, he looks right, he's going to treat the right hand side, which is the inside going 8 to 10-3.
Here it is. This is the crucial moment in this race. And it's looking like it's only going one way. David Dott is going to take the race lead. Heading into the second half of the season, the Hungarian of David Dott has driven a masterclass here with the early pit stop. Not the ideal strategy, but an ideal race winner and an excellent performance.
To save our home, we must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
Miranda Pederzuba into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone off into the barriers coming up to the cutting.
David Todd making his way back up has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh! Oh, spoke too soon there. Sandy goes up.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Toth passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to lead? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Toth right now going into the pit lane.
Big accident there. I think that was Pedro. He's just gone off. Oh, carousel immediately. He gets punted off. That was Pedro. Aguilar, he's gone off. He's been tapped and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin.
Oh,
Oh,
and-
no.
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lawler does have the inside track for the Swiss left. If he's able to make the pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean as they come into the right hand. And this is it. Chris Lawler seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a note, put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lawler takes it.
We were in Italy earlier, but now we're heading back up to Portimao. That's right, folks. Algarve in the GTP cars. Welcome back, everybody, to Season 5 of the AMX Sim Racing World Championship, where we had a great Assetto Corsa Competizione race going on earlier. But now we are back in iRacing, where the championship has been heating up between Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo. Gael Valero, of course, just inching away ever so slightly in the lead, but we still have a few races to determine who the champ is going to be. I am Kevin alongside Damon, and Damon, what a wild ride it was earlier today.
Yeah, ACC, pretty new territory for me, but I did end up with some pretty interesting racing, pretty good racing. Gael Valero, of course, winning that one, unfortunately, because of some 7-hour disconnecting there. Couldn't actually close it out with a win like he wanted. But it is now time. We're back in iRacing. We're in Portugal this time around. I'm really looking forward to it, especially with the cars that we'll be taking on track this time.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime we're in the GTPs, we know it's going to be a good time, especially so far it's looking like it's pretty clear skies out there. But like I said, anything can change over the last few months with iRacing from what we've seen in the past. Definitely the GTPs, not the best car out in the rain. So we'll have to see if the skies stay clear. But for all those watching on Twitch and YouTube, make sure to follow all of our social media. We post highlights, replays, updates, especially now that we're nearing the end of the season. Make sure to stay tuned there for updates what we're going to have next season, as well as just, you know, some fun times from this season as well. But before we check in on our drivers in qualifying, we have a few things. Like we said, we are back out at Portimao at the Algarve Circuit. We've been out AMX Season 5. I can't believe it's almost over. We keep saying this, man. It flies by. We've been here since May 25th, going all the way to August 18th, with a season prize pool of $15,000 plus next level racing gear. Back in iRacing now for AMX 5. We have our 20-minute qualifier, followed by a top 15 reverse grid, going into heat number 1 of 20 minutes, followed by that second top 15 reverse grid for that final 20-minute heat number 2. For all of our drivers out there on the track, driver cams are required. You can get the link via our AMX Discord or on the website. Payouts are done in balances over $100 paid out every single month. So once you hit $100 in winnings, expect that money headed your way. We're out here every single Saturday and Sunday this season. And like I said, if you want to get joined in on the races, you can sign up anytime at amxrace.com, as well as get all of the info on what's going on. We're every single Saturday, Sunday, starting at 5:50 p.m. GMT, with a second race followed at 7:20 p.m. And on the off weeks now, we have the reintroduction of AMX 0 starting at 5:50 p.m., followed by AMX 20 at 7 p.m. So the prize pool goes as following for our AMX 5 iRacing events. Qualifying first place gets $15, $10 goes to second place, $9 going to third place, all the way down into 15th. And that is the exact same for heat number 1 and heat number 2, with the addition of the fastest lap in those two heats getting an additional $2, with a total prize pool per race of $250. So if you want to get out here and win some money, you must have a minimum high rating of 2,000 to get out here for AMX 5 as well. Like we've seen, definitely things getting shaken up out here. The battle for the championship has been heating up since we came back from our halfway break. But current top 10 sitting in 10th place, we have Diego Villarreal de Leon. In 9th place, Dino Filippa. 8th, Toby Soriano. 7th, Ralph Benitez. 6th, Evandro Dantas. 5th, Pedro Dean. 4th, Gaston Prestaculavi. 3rd place, we have Jackson SNJ at 548.5. Second place, Bruno De Carmo at 592.5 points. And your current championship leader still, Gael Valero, at 672 points. So we've seen earlier on today, Gael Valero doing great, but we'll have to see as we have a few more races if he's going to get that lead further, or if Bruno De Carmo will have the comeback of a lifetime and be able to best him. it's definitely going to get heated up over the next few races, folks. But speaking of the championship, the champion will be taking home a great prize from our friends over at Next Level Racing, the GT Elite cockpit as well as ERS 3 seat. So definitely giving some great hardware out to the champ. They have earned it this season, putting on a show for everyone out there. But before we get into qualifying, once again, Damon, another great, I think I've been saying way too many tracks, but it's true. A lot of these tracks, I'm starting to see a lot more. This one I have racing on in iRacing, and it's definitely been one of my favorite, a roller coaster of a track out here today.
Yeah, and roller coaster is definitely the most accurate word to describe this track. Of course, the Autodromo Internacional Algarve in the city of Portimao in Portugal opened relatively recently compared to some of the other tracks that we've seen before in 2008, 4.59 kilometers. And as mentioned before, it is a roller coaster because the entire course goes up and down. There's so much elevation changes that it can throw certain cars and certain drivers off of balance if you're not careful. And of course, because of that, you also end up with a few blind spots in certain places. And in terms of the cars that we'll be driving this time around on a track like this, it's definitely going to be a bit of a challenge. It is, of course, the GTP class cars. Prototype behemoths, monsters, even 671 horsepower, just over a ton, rear-wheel drive, massive amounts of downforce, pretty much just a little bit shy of the LMP2 and LMP1 cars, but still absolute monsters in their own right. And it'll be interesting to see how these drivers take it around the course, as we will be getting into the action in just a little bit. But Kevin, I think take it away. Wow, I am stumbling over my words today.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, definitely. So this track, I haven't raced it yet in a car as fast as this. I've done it in some of the slower cars. I mean, we've seen a lot also in some of the iRacing official races during the week just going on. We have, a lot of the F4, a lot of the GT4, GT3. So those cars doing very well out at this track. And I can say from personal experience, this is one why I said it's a roller coaster. This is probably one of the few tracks that I have tried in VR that, man, I just got absolutely motion sickness. So we can see from some of these onboards, just the super rapid changes in elevation, going around turns, like you said, some of these blind hairpins going around. Definitely, it did help in VR. So we'll have to see if any of these guys out here in VR today have a bit of an advantage, being able to really turn your head, see where you're going. That definitely helps out a lot, but also add to that motion sickness if you're not entirely too comfortable with some of these, especially in cars going this fast. When I did it, it was out in a GT4, nothing this quick. So I can only imagine that kind of roller coaster effect getting that much, just being that much more pronounced. But we can see here, as well as the folks watching at home, we have the live timings. Go ahead and scan that QR code while the race is going on, and you can see some of the same information we're seeing up here in the booth. So get that live timing going up. And speaking of that, I need to make sure I have my live timing before I tell you guys too. But definitely, I have a feeling, as right here we are on board one of the Team Red Line drivers. That would be Gustavo Ariel. So Gustavo, he's showed up a couple seasons ago in AMX, and the rest is history. Being recruited by Team Red Line, absolutely just his career has been just shooting off like a rocket recently. Recently got drafted in the Racing Prodigy draft to be an actual professional driver. So him and Dino Filippa now being teammates in real life, getting drafted for that as well. We got to hear from him in the interview room a couple of weeks back. So it's great to see him still out on track. I know he was one of those drivers we mentioned earlier on, out there doing the Pro Series for the IndyCar and iRacing, as well as the VCO Series. So some of these guys, they've been very, very busy now during the summertime. All of the professional sim racing events in iRacing going on. So great to have them back here, as well as a great grid from what it looks like, Damon.
Yeah, definitely. We've got about 16 drivers on the grid this time around, and Gustavo Ariel currently on his best current lap. Have to see if he possibly find there no improvement on his lap on the final sector, but he did improve his overall lap time, now down to 131.95, which is about 0.03 of a second ahead of Toby Soriano in P2 right now. The drivers we definitely have to be looking out for is, of course, Gael Valero, currently in P12, not really setting a fast time yet, and Simon here on the VR headset, as you mentioned before, definitely might help with being able to see around the corners, but could possibly end up with a little bit of motion sickness. We'll have to see if it affects him in any way there. And you can see a very, very relatively large variety of cars that the drivers. I see a few Cadillacs, I see a few Porsches, and I see a few BMWs, a couple of BMWs, but no Acura.
And speaking with the VR, so one thing that, I don't know, I mean, I guess it really just varies from person to person, because like I said, there's been some stuff that I did this track in VR, and man, I got through it, but I did not feel the best after it, man. I felt a little bit of that motion sickness, which is kind of funny. So I don't know if, you know, just what parts of the brain that really kind of get that sensation of, hey, your eyes are telling you you should be feeling a bunch of G-forces out here, but your body isn't, and, you know, kind of getting that weird motion sickness. But it's funny because a lot of people assume just because you might have that in VR that maybe you get that when you're actually in a car or when you're out, you know, maybe amusement park rides. But man, I'm perfectly fine. Roller coasters, you can send all the G-forces at me. Like, I love it. I have a great time. Never gotten sick. But for some reason, man, something with the VR just does it for me. But back out, what is going on out on track right now? We have an amazing driver out here, especially in the GTP category. We have Peter Zuba, who is now driving the number 4 car out there for Race Clutch. So definitely glad to see him out here. We've seen him previously in AMX in this car, just putting down blazing lap times, currently sitting in 4th place. So still Gustavo Ariel holding on to that top place, but we still have about a little more than 7 minutes going on in the qualifying session. So we'll have to see if anyone has what it takes to knock off Gustavo Ariel off the top spot.
All right, here it is. Got Valero just improved on his time a little bit, jumped up about 4 spots now in P9. Looking at the timing boards right now, he is currently 3 positions ahead of Bruno Carmo, who is still on his out lap. So there's definitely time for him to set a fast one, as well as Juan Blenat here, who has a purple 2nd sector. So he looks to be on track to improve on his current lap time as well. In P5, pretty good position for him. And one thing we have to definitely pay attention to in the race, especially when these cars are going to be really close together, is that just before turn 1, the start finish figure, as Juan Blenat is about to cross, you can see the elevation changes. They go uphill for a bit, and then it's a sharp time just before the first turn. So your braking, especially at this part, is going to be so important. You don't want to overcook it.
And looking at now, so just seeing the different cars that are out here today. So we have a pretty decent spread of Cadillacs and Porsches, a couple BMWs, but one car I'm surprised I have not seen out here today. We don't have a single Acura GTP car out on the field. So that's a bit surprising, as a lot of tracks, we tend to see that car a lot in iRacing, especially from a lot of these top level drivers. But out here today, like I said, just the crazy elevation changes, the crazy turns, everything. It looks like, you know, that car maybe not the best choice out here. So I'll trust the pros out there, especially seeing how many now. Definitely, I'd say my favorite, just as far as looks and sound, everything goes, absolutely, I'd say the Cadillac, man. Just that V8 just roaring out of that GTP, especially seeing all of the real life videos, man. To me, there is nothing like that when you have a hypercar, just a massive, huge V8 out there roaring out on the track. But nonetheless, it is paying off for Gustavo Ariel holding on to that top spot, but there's a line of Porsches right behind him. The likes of Toby Soriano in 2nd and Peter Zuba in 3rd. So right now, Raf Benitez as well, we have there sitting in 5th place. A few of the guys there sitting in the middle of the pack. So Dino Filippa, another AMX veteran, as well as Tomas Simon. We've got to see Tomas really show what he can do out here in AMX this season. So definitely this season he has come to fruition, been putting on a great show out there, one of the few VR drivers, and we'll see if that, like we said, pays off for him today. Tomas Simon, another one of the drivers out there, one of the lone BMWs. Looks like him and Gaston Kulavi, the only 2 drivers out there in the BMWs today.
Yeah, and the fact that you mentioned the Cadillacs with their big V8s and also having the best noise out of all the GTP cars in this class. It also bears reminding that the Cadillac's V8 is the only naturally aspirated one among these 4 cars. All the others have turbocharged, and the Acuras are V6s. So maybe in terms of how the engine delivers its power could play a factor in the popularity of certain cars. Maybe they feel like the V6 doesn't get enough torque or something like that. But we're going to have to see here. A lot of these cars are being piloted by absolutely brilliant drivers.
Yeah, definitely right there. I just seen Ralph Benitez now able to best his fellow Brazilian and now getting into that top spot. So Ralph Benitez, the Delinta Esports driver, of course, Delinta Esports being known famous because of one of their team leads, Tony Kanaan. So there we have now. Looks like it might be a battle between Delinta and Team Redline, some of the best sim racing teams out here on the grid today. Like we said, we have David Toth from Drago Racing. We have Peter Zuba from Race Clutch. We have Gael Valero out here from Apex Racing. So a lot of the top teams being represented out here, as they do, you know, pretty much every single week. That's one of the things I love so much about AMX is we always get to see some of the best out there, whether it's just pro drivers hopping in every now and then or quite literally the best sim racers in the world. So I think the only drivers that we haven't really seen much of on here, probably to round up the top, I'd say probably the top 5 teams in all of sim racing, I'd say is drivers from Williams Esports or Coanda Esports as well. So we've seen a lot of other guys, some people from Altis, I know out there too, Altis Australia, Connor Healy, I believe. We have a few different people. So, I mean, great to see everyone representing all of their teams, everyone representing their countries out here too. Now see Martin Chico go up another position here. Toby Soriano currently sitting in 3rd place in that beautiful yellow livery, man. That thing looks great out there on the Porsche.
Yeah, definitely. And adding on to the list of teams that we're not seeing in the AMX here, I'm not seeing any Sim RC drivers as well. No Kieran Harrison. And it really is kind of weird to say Kieran Harrison not in the top 10 of driver status, but he just hasn't been participating in that many AMX races. Probably busy with some other races on his own calendar here, but hopefully he's doing pretty well for himself. But it is giving room for other drivers to really get their time in the spotlight. And one of the drivers that we have to highlight here is, of course, Ralph Benitez. Over the last couple of days, really been on pace in terms of setting lap times during qualifying, blisteringly quick, almost at the top of the leaderboards almost every time he's in qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm seeing now a bit of a trend. I mean, these cars definitely, they have a lot of power, a lot of aero for still technically being in the sports car category. But definitely, I feel like the experience from some of the open wheel, I know a lot of these guys, we're starting to see them more, especially the top 2 names that just popped him coming to mind right now, seeing David Toth, seeing Gustavo Ariel, and a few other of these guys on the grid today that with the VCO Esports, the Pro Series of iRacing for IndyCar. A lot of these guys have been checking on what they've been doing out there in IndyCar, especially now since iRacing finally got the licensing back. It's definitely starting to get just exploding in popularity, having multiple series going on all at the same time. So really seeing a lot of those guys, that plus during the official iRacing endurance challenges. So a lot of these 12-hour, 24-hour races, seeing Team Redline especially has been at the top of the leaderboards, nearly everything. So this whole year, Team Redline has just been absolutely dominating the sim racing world, no matter what they've been doing this year.
Yeah, and of course, Team Redline definitely helps that they have an absolute piece of a driver in Max Verstappen, Formula One world champion, in their stable, who could do as a training partner, as well as giving them much needed boost in terms of speed and experience. But that will be the end of qualifying. Looks like Ralph Benitez will be holding on to that top spot at the end there, tipping Gustavo Ariel in getting 1st place in qualifying.
And so there we go, folks. So looks like, yeah, the last minute of Peter Zuba, Ralph Benitez, Gustavo Ariel, those guys doing absolutely amazing lap times. But there is your session winner. So Peter Zuba able to get the top spot out here in qualifying. So Peter Zuba in 1st place. 2nd place, though, very shortly, only about 0.05 of a second, Ralph Benitez. And in 3rd place, Gustavo Ariel right behind him as well. So top 3, very close. In 4th place, we got Toby Soriano. 5th, Juan Blenat. 6th place, David Toth. 7th, Tomas Simon. 8th, Dino Filippa. 9th place, Martin Chico. 10th, Gael Valero. 11th, Pedro Dean. 12th, Bruno De Carmo. 13th, Diego Villarreal. 14th, Tim State. 15th, Evandro Dantas, and rounding out in 16th, just barely missing that top 15 reverse grid, we have Gaston Coulavi, who unfortunately was unable to set an official time out here in qualifying. So he'll have his work cut out for him, as well as a few of these guys. Peter Zuba, Ralph Benitez, Gustavo Ariel. I have no doubt that they can battle their way through the pack. They've done it time and time again, especially out here. Like I said, looking like clear skies, currently about 32 degrees out there. So a great day, a little bit warmer on the warmer side, 56-degree track temps. So we'll see how fast these tires start to wear off out here today.
Yeah, and they will be doing a formation lap, as you can see the safety car on the grid here. So we do have a bit of time to be talking about predictions as well as what we expect to see during the race itself. And of course, the biggest point of contention is going to be this battle between Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo for that top position. So Kevin, you've done the calculations. You know if Gael Valero finishes high enough and clears Bruno De Carmo by a further 20 points or so, he's pretty much got the entire championship in the bag this season.
Yeah, I mean, really from here on out. So coming into today, Gael Valero, I believe, was about, I want to say it was roughly 60 points ahead of Bruno De Carmo. So really, he has to officially have at least 90 more points than Bruno De Carmo leaving here today going into next weekend. But like I said, the reason I say that is technically if Gael Valero is able to get over 90 points out here today, then he won't even have to show up for the next AMX 5 races, and he could walk home the champion a week early. But like we said, those two still battling it out. Both of them out here showing a very similar pace, so we'll have to see what ends up happening. We got to see Gael Valero earlier take home his first Assetto Corsa Competizione win. Definitely, he had a sigh of relief. Unfortunately, we were hoping to see a bit of a battle between him and Simona Seminara, but Simona Seminara, having some connection issues, ended up DNFing out of that race. So super heartbreaking to see that happen, but like we said, there's always next season now. That gives me hope to see what happens going into next season for some of these races and some of these drivers too. I know Simona Seminara has been out here trying to get his iRating up. We'll see. Hopefully he can get out here for some of these AMX 5 races next season. Like we said, trying to just get his iRating up. He's pretty new to iRacing, but he's still an amazing driver overall.
Yeah, definitely can't knock the skill that he has. So as soon as he gets his everything up past that 2K threshold for AMX 5, he's going to be pretty comfortable around the drivers here. And yeah, I'm already thinking about ways that we can really expand on the car and track combinations in the next season. But we'll talk about that in another time. Right now, the formation lap is still ongoing, but they will be ending soon. And you can see the drivers are still kind of breaking formation a little bit, trying to get their tires warmed up. It's going to be a rolling start, and the launch is super important for some of these drivers. You see Tim State's car there, as well as the Evandro Dantas. Bruno De Carmo will be starting a couple of positions ahead of Gael Valero, so he's going to have to try to do his best to keep him at bay. So, man, I want to say something about the state of the race, but we're going to have to see what happens first at the start. Turn 1, very important. The next couple of corners after that as well. And then once the cars start fanning out, we get to see some isolated battles. It's definitely going to be a bit of a slobber knocker here.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say going into turn 1, that is probably my favorite part of this track. So, of course, one of those very long straights going across into the home, but with that elevation change as well, as you have a couple turns leading into it, definitely going to be, I'd say, probably the most opportunistic time for some of these drivers to make a pass. But with that, definitely one of the most dangerous places to try and make a pass if these guys really start squeezing each other out here on the track. So although once it kind of opens up, once you get past the start finish line going into turn 1, but then it quickly closes on. You have a couple of right-handers that you can take pretty fast in these cars, but then it gets cut off by a tight hairpin, followed by another uphill. So the elevation changes, just definitely these guys out here. So they're not going to have to worry too much about their setups, though. Everyone running the same car out here today, as now we see Porsche safety car. Pulling off into the pits, folks. Here we are, race 44. We're going green out here at AMX Season 5, and a beautiful start so far by Evandro Dantas. Him stay able to slot right back in there, going for the optimal line. So we'll have to see. A lot of these guys, you don't really want to go any more than 2 wide, but Evandro Dantas, just an amazing start so far.
Yeah, I see a little bit of 3 wide there going on. Ooh, a little bit of contact and some smoke being blown up there. But so far, so good. All the drivers are making it pretty clean. Gal Valero making his way up the field, but actually losing the position there. Down to P7, Montechico taking his spot. Evandro Dantas is going to take this opportunity to get away from the scramble and pull away from the rest of the pack. But you can see the other drivers here. Bruno Carmo in P4, Montechico P6. Pedro in there in P5. Haven't really switched around the positions as much as we thought. Oh, it's already a spin there. Oh, that is Dino Filippo, and another one just goes off. That was 3 cars, and Gal Valero was one of them.
Man, so right there, like we said, another lap 1 incident. There's someone out there mowing the grass now, going into the wall. That's Tomas Simon. So I think he might have gotten caught up, but ooh, that tire is completely done. So he's going to definitely have to get towed back to the pit. So just like that, we have some amazing fast drivers. Did pretty good in qualifying, just unfortunately getting caught up in that, but it leaves room for these other drivers in the middle of the pack to start getting a little bit of a gap going on. We'll have to see if they capitalize on that, as Evandro Dantas absolutely is capitalized on everything going on behind him. Now a 1.6 second gap between him in first place and Tim State in that second place position. So we got to see Tim State doing pretty well also in some of the other races. So another driver that we see improving week in and week out. You know, Tim State, he is definitely one of those guys. We've seen him in VR yesterday. We got to see him. He traded out the VR for a nice widescreen. But here we go. Ooh, nice. 2 wide going into there. Toby Soriano holding on to that, but Gustavo Ariel just holding on right in front of him. So I think this is really going to set the precedent for what we see out here. And ooh, a little bit of contact right there. Toby Soriano going into the rear end. Luckily, not spinning out Gustavo Ariel. But I know Gustavo Ariel is going to be like, hey, man, what is up with that? Going to have to be a little bit more careful. So hopefully Toby Soriano is still doing a pretty good job trying to make it to the inside, looking to the inside. But no, Gustavo Ariel able to shut the door on him and hold on to that position.
Yeah, and you can see 5 drivers are now in the pits because of that lap 1 scramble. Gal Valero, Bruno Carmo, your P1 and P2 in the driver standings, one of them. And here is the incident that put Dino Filippo out, as well as some other drivers here. You can see he just gets shunted in the middle of all that kerfuffle, gets pitted, and as he rejoins the track into the corner here, he punts off another 2 drivers and takes out 2 of them at once, forcing them into the runoff area. And really, that was unfortunate because he definitely couldn't slow down enough to rejoin any safer than that. Aside from that, Gal Valero being forced into the pits, as well as Bruno De Carmo, really going to put a damper on any chances they have of extending the lead, especially for Gal Valero. Meanwhile, Toby Soriano is still chasing down Gustavo Ariel. The car looking a little bit like a Hot Wheels with the back of that way. Ooh, looks like might have been a little bit of contact as they're entering the start finish straight here. We're only in lap 3, ladies and gentlemen, and it's already kicking off.
Yeah, just like that, like we said, still a little bit more contact going on between Toby Soriano and Gustavo Ariel. Oh, back to back. So these guys, like I said, there's a little bit of bumping going on right here, but Gustavo Ariel saying, you know what, man, you're getting a little bit aggressive. I'm going to push back. You got into the rear end of me. I'm not going to let you take this. You're going to have to earn it the hard way. So Gustavo Ariel able to hold onto that, and now Toby Soriano going down to the 11th place. But we can see right here, too, the accident with Bruno De Carmo, Martin Chico. So these guys right here going up into that left-hander, and that's a very dangerous spot. So especially going on some of these uphills, the grip, you just really don't want to be in the wrong spot. So a lot of people, that one thing might not realize watching this at home, unless you've been out on this track, is going up into that uphill spot just with that the compression on the suspension, just decompressing so fast, you start to lose a lot of grip in those front tires, making it super easy to just spin out, especially right here, some of these drivers that have been getting into each other. If you have that rear wing damage, it's going to be super easy to get out and just be spinning out here on the track. So hopefully these drivers can keep it pretty clean. But speaking of that, looking at Gustavo Ariel's car, it does look like he might have had that rear wing get taken off. I'm not sure if that was due to the incident between him and Toby Soriano earlier on, or maybe that first lap incident. But now Gustavo Ariel definitely not having the grip that he wants out there on the track.
And here is the picture here, the incident between Bruno De Carmo as well as Gao Valero. You see Gao Valero's car just losing it a little bit as he's trying to slow down to avoid an incident with Bruno De Carmo. However, he cooks it a bit too hard, slides out, and then taps the side of Bruno De Carmo's car. So both of them getting taken out there and really putting a damper on their championship run for the time being. So Gao Valero not going to be in as comfortable a position as we thought he might end up being here. These GTP cars, they're brutal, so much faster than some of the other car combinations that we've seen previously in AMX, especially the TCRs where we know Gao Valero has been thriving in. But for the other drivers here, this is their opportunity to seize the moment, take away the victory, and walk away with pretty penny for their troubles here. Pedro Dean here in P1, just in front of David Toff by about 0.4 of a second, with Andro Dantas rounding up the podium spots. And a third of the race through, we've already seen a few twists and turns. It's really exciting this time around.
Looking at that, so seeing on the time screen looks like, whoa, Tim State right there locking up. Oh, unfortunately, getting able to, okay, he looks like he's just getting right off the track, so he might have had almost an unsafe rejoin there, just saying, hey man, I better keep it safe than sorry, and just slides off the track once again, kind of waits for everyone to pass him. So unfortunately, Tim State getting thrown down in the standings after that. But speaking of the standings, it looks like Gael Valero is still in the pit lane. So Gael Valero, he is on that 15th spot. He knows, looks like Gaston Kulabi is out of this race. So I think right now, knowing with championship points on the line, seeing that him and Bruno De Carmo both out, Bruno De Carmo hit in the pit lane as well, I think Gael Valero might just be waiting to say, all right, I'm going to sit here in that 15th place position, get pole for heat number 2, and try to walk away with the win out there. But like we said, Bruno De Carmo back into the pit, so we'll have to see, since it is a championship fight between those two guys, if they're going to call it quits for heat number 1 and just try to worry about the points in heat number 2. We'll just have to wait and see. But for right now, it is Pedro Dean trying to fend off David Toth. So David Toth, we know, an absolutely amazing driver out here as well as Pedro Dean. We've seen Pedro Dean increase in, just get so much better in leaps and bounds as the seasons have progressed. So it's great to see him up here in first place. It'd be great to see him come away with the win here, but we know David Toth isn't going to make that easy for him.
Yeah, and especially on a track like this, where it's really, really difficult to judge just how tight some of these corners can be, especially when some of them are blind and come directly after an uphill segment. It really can scare you off into what could be a potential overtaking maneuver. As David Toff here still trying to do his best to just close the gap with Pedro Dean first, maybe give him a little bit of pressure, hopefully rope him into making a mistake that he can take advantage of. But you can see the lines that he can pretty wide there on the final turn into the start finish phase. So he's still going to be about 0.3 of a second behind, but it is positions like this where it's stressful, because any one mistake from either side could end up spelling the end for both racers.
And one thing that I'm noticing out here too from David Toth is he's typically out here running in the Drago Racing livery. So seeing that he's not out here running, I'm not sure if he's just not running the livery today, but also looking at the timing screen, I don't see that set as his current team according to iRacing right now. So, I mean, we might have to see if there was something. We already know that we've seen one driver drop out, get recruited by another team, that being Aaron Vasquez, who's now part of the Apex sim racing team. So we might have to catch up with David Toss just to see if, hey, maybe he's just not out here in the livery today, or if maybe that is saying something else. Like I said, I don't want to put any speculations out there just yet, just in case, you know, it might be that simple of, yeah, I'm just not running the livery today, or he may be a free market out there, a free agent in the sim racing market. So we might have to catch up with him later, see what's going on. But nonetheless, that does not take away from the fact that he is still in second place, trying to battle it off with Pedro Dean. Pedro Dean still able to do an amazing job, amazing defense out here. So like we said, right here, once they come onto the home stretch, so that's where we might see, we've seen David Toth kind of waiting. I think he might just trying to, hey, be patient. They already have a 3.5 second gap over everyone else. I'll wait to try and make a move. I know, especially right here in the draft. Of course, these guys a little bit less downforce than maybe some of these more technical corners. So a little bit of a balancing act out here today. Like we said, these guys kind of running the fixed setups, don't really have much say in what they want out here or get to do that. But right here still, ooh, getting a little bit wide right there, but still, right here, I think they have still enough grip to not really have to stay on one single line the entire time. Of course, you have your optimal line, but some of these guys hanging out a little bit wider, still doing that, not quite getting that. But David Toth, we'll have to see, as he's still less than 0.3 of a second behind Pedro Dean.
Yeah, and the fact that you brought up the downforce, and yes, I definitely agree. The downforce, especially in the high speed and mid speed section, is definitely very, very much being used to the fullest extent by the GTP cars. However, as we saw earlier with Tim State, once we get to the really low speed sections and you aren't familiar with the limits of the mechanical grip of these cars, it can really catch you off guard and put you in a compromising position. And so far, it looks like the rest of these drivers definitely have it under control, but Pedro Dean there is driving quite defensively to try to stop David Toff from sneaking up on him and trying to make a move. This battle, then, they're helping each other out to pull away from the rest of the field as much as possible, but nothing is stopping David Toff from trying to make a move on his own. About 4 seconds clear of Martin Chico and Pedro Zuba here, who are in another battle of their own, as you can see on the timing blocks. Less than 2 tenths of a second separating those two, but on the isolated battlefront, we're definitely only watching. And then we go to picture in picture. We'll show the battle for P3 as well. Ooh.
And look at that too. So, right there too. Oh, these guys getting a little bit dangerous out there now. So Pedro Dean still holding on to it. But one thing I was going to say is, right here, Pedro Dean currently sitting 5th in the AMX 5 standings. David Toth not in the top 10, but that's because he hasn't really competed too much. We've seen him more out here, trying to make the move to the outside. Right there, hold on to it. So we'll see David Toth able to hold on to it. So that's one thing I was saying earlier. And there looks like there is just enough grip around some of these corners where you can see that outside line and hold on to it. So David Toth really taking advantage of that out here. We'll have to see if now that Pedro Dean knows that, if he's going to try and do that back to him. Of course, really trying to be defensive. So now he is back on the offense. But David Toth, like I was mentioning, we haven't seen too much out here in AMX 5. We've seen him absolutely killing it for AMX 20. So the current championship leader looking like he is going to be walking out of here a champion for AMX 20. But man, out here today, he is just showing why he is still also one of the best sim racers in the world. And right there, a great move by Peter Zuba, taking that inside line, able to get up now into 3rd place.
Yeah, great move by Peter Zuba, taking up the advantage over Juan Blenat and Martin Chico. Really caught them both off guard with that ballsy move that he did. And now he's in P3. Still not entirely safe, however. These cars are definitely going to be contesting for that position. In fact, there's 4 cars right behind them. At this point, anything can happen. That camera shake as the cars are just flying by. And that's how much that's how you know how fast they're going. And really, Martin Chico here fending off Juan Blenat, who is looking like he suffered a little bit of damage to that front end of it.
Yeah, that's always should be interesting to see what happens now after that. But here we go. Looking at Martin Chico, also Juan Blenat. Now Juan Blenat making the move over Martin Chico to the inside. Does he have enough? It looks like he will be able to hold on to that. Little bit of contact going on between the two drivers. So great move right there. So a couple different moves going on. It looks like that same turn has been where everyone has been trying to make their moves. So I expected it to be going into turn 1, but I think that one, just how high speed of a corners those are right there, turn 1, 2, and 3. Those drivers not wanting to risk it too much. But here we go, Martin Chico back to the inside, but we'll have to see. We'll get the undercut. So these guys, absolutely great, man. This is the racing we love to see out here, door to door, switching back and forth, swapping places. So battle between the Cadillac and Porsches out here today. Juan Blenat. Now we see, oh no, Martin Chico and Ralph Benitez now getting into it as well.
Yeah, Martin Chico went a little bit wide on that hairpin. Ralph Benitez capitalized on an opportunity to close the gap and try to make a pass. Wasn't able to make it stick, however, and Martin Chico still holding on to that position just barely. He's not being able to catch up to Juan Blenat, but he is still in the drive, and it looks like he is pulling the gap ever so slightly there. Oh, but here comes Ralph Benitez for the amazing slingshot coming through. Martin Chico caught completely off guard as they're entering turn 1 there. Ralph Benitez, brilliant pass from him. Now we're looking to see if Toby Soriano can do the same. Ooh, but Martin Chico not going to give up that easily, risking a little bit of contact to get the inside drop on that dive into that corner. Unfortunately, couldn't make it happen. And now, down to P6 is Martin Chico. Ralph Benitez, brilliant dropper. Oh, but I spoke too soon. Looks like Martin Chico's going to try again. And looks
like he might be locking in this time. No, Ralph Benitez still has a better exit out. As they're entering the next corner now, Ralph Benitez has the inside line and he's pulling onto that. Martin Chico blistering speed out of that, but then forced to go wide onto the next right-hander and then losing another position to Toby Soriano. This guy just cannot catch the break.
Man, and just like that, so things definitely, we knew they were going to get heated up out here in the GTP cars, and that has been the case so far. So we are in lap number 10 out of 13. So we only have a few laps left in this thing. We'll have to see as the battle in the middle of the pack is going to ensue. You know, our top 4 drivers, our top 5 drivers have a pretty decent gap between all of them. So now I think this is really where it's going to be from 5th place back to see how the battle ensues. And so far, man, this has been where all of the entertainment has been happening out here in heat number 1. So Martin Chico now still on the grid from where he was. Well, he's still in the same place from where he was on the grid. He was doing a little bit better, got up a couple spots, lost a couple spots, but now we'll have to see. There's still quite a few seconds between the leaders, so I don't expect that to change unless one of them makes an absolutely just disastrous mistake up there. So right now, though, looking on the hunt, Toby Soriano trying to get into that 5th place position, take it away from Ralph Benitez, but we've seen Ralph Benitez be a very consistent driver out here all season long, so Toby Soriano definitely has his work cut out for him.
Yeah, Ralph Benitez being one of the fastest drivers we've had this entire weekend, actually, with a great fast qualifying second from him. Wasn't really able to close out the first race of yesterday, but at the race 2, heat 2, really pulled it out and got himself that dub. But Toby Soriano, also another one who did end up winning one of the races this season, this weekend, in fact. Isn't going to let it go without a fight. Both of them are in the Cadillac, so woo, looking like it's really heating up, and I can't wait to see what Heat 2 will bring. And talking about it so much, especially looking at the action, just like being engrossed in it, you don't even realize that it's already left 11 out of 13.
Yeah, man, just seeing what these cars are doing out here, it's been absolutely crazy. This is why I love, I'd say, the GTP, and as well as yesterday we got to see the LMP2 cars, is this type of racing that we get to see out here. So a lot of power, a lot of downforce as far as the sports cars go. So I think the only other thing that really we haven't seen too much of is, I hope, you know, fingers crossed, hint, hint, wink, wink, if we get to see the introduction of some more cars next season. We'll have to wait for the official announcement, but I know, like I said earlier on, these guys are no strangers to these, especially running there. Ooh, David Toth just getting a little bit squirrely right there. He's already losing almost half a second because of that small mistake. So what we were saying earlier of just, we might see this be our finishing grid. If we see any more mistakes like that, we're going to have a battle on our hands to the checkered flag.
Yeah, penultimate lap here. Pedro Dean is still 1.7 seconds behind David Toff. So, barring that one slight slip, it looks like he might be able to secure this win for himself. Meanwhile, the battle's in front. In fact, all the cars are spaced out pretty well, apart from the cars of Juan Blenat, Ralph Benitez, and Toby Soriano. These 3 cars that we definitely have to be looking out for to see if there will be a last lap magic battle between these 3 cars for that P4 slot.
And looking at David Todd, so leading out here today. So one of the things, like we said earlier, he has been absolutely dominating out in AMX 20. He's been extremely consistent, been the fastest driver, now leading by quite a bit over Gael Valero for the championship for AMX 20. So it's looking like, although Gael Valero is right now in the lead, looking like he very may well be winning the AMX 5 championship going into next week. We still have to see about the AMX 20 with David Toth has enough points to technically be crowned a champion. But like we said, there's still a few things coming in. There can always be stuff with the officiating reports, whether or not some people want to send a protest or not. So after the last AMX 20 race, though, I don't expect that to happen. But like I said, I don't want to say anything is official until it's official. But here we go, folks. The white flags, lap 13 of 13 out here. David Toth leading. Gustavo Ariel right here, though, against Tim State. So Tim State doing a pretty good job at defending against one of the best drivers out there. So Gustavo Ariel being a pro sim racer in the official iRacing Pro Series. Now we'll have to see, like we said earlier on, looked like he had a bit of damage to that rear wing. He hit the pits, got that rear wing back, so now he has the run and definitely has the pace from qualifying. So Tim State just conceding that spot, letting Gustavo Ariel go by, saying, you know what, I'm not, but it looks like he's going for a little bit of the under there. Gustavo Ariel locking up the brakes just a bit, but Tim State not wanting to get too aggressive and not wanting to end up into a crash.
Yeah, meanwhile, a lot further in front, here is David Toff, and it looks like he's going to make it official as he's crossing the finish straight here, making it pretty easy dub for him in Heat 1. Pedro Dean coming in P2, Pedro Zuba, great qualifying as well, ended up P1 there, but having to set up for P3 here. Juan Blenat holding on to that P4 all the way until the end with Ralph Benitez and Toby Soriano behind him. Marta Chico in P7, started in P7, finished in P7, so not much progress in terms of moving up the grid, but not losing any as well, so he's in a pretty okay spot. Then we have Evandro Dantas crossing the line, Diego Villarreal, pretty good result from him as well. He is in the top 10 with Gustavo Ariel rounding it out. And Tim State, the other person there, probably going to be end up finishing the race as well. While the other 5 drivers on the grid is Tomas Simon, Bruno De Carmo, Daniel Valero, Gaston Kuhavi, as well as Dino Felipa. Just really unfortunate Heat 1 for all of these drivers.
And so that comes to a conclusion of our heat number 1 out here of race number 44. The GTP cars have been putting on a show just like we expected out at Algarve. But it is all about David Toth out here in heat number 1. A huge congratulations. Let's see if he's able to make it a back-to-back for heat number 2. So definitely we got to see Peter Zuba a little bit better during the qualifying earlier on. But nonetheless, David Toth still coming out on top. Your Ben Q session winner, David Toth, in second place. We have Pedro Dean, who's putting up a great fight for a lot of this race, holding on to first. Unfortunately, now ending up in second, which is still a great position, but left to battle his way back in the next heat. Pedro Zuba in third place. Juan Blenat in fourth. Ralph Benitez in fifth place. Toby Soriano in sixth. Martin Chico seventh. Evandro Dantas in eighth. Diego Villarreal in ninth. Gustavo Ariel in 10th. Tim State 11th. Tomas Simon in 12th. 13th is Bruno De Carmo. 14th place, Dino Felipa. 15th, Gael Valero. And unfortunately, Gaston Kulabi retiring from this race. But it does look like Gustavo Ariel able to set the fastest lap. So we'll see Gustavo now having a little bit better starting grid position. This heat will be able to hopefully get up into that podium. I know he's wanting that win today. Doing great out there. We missed him yesterday. Like we said, he was out there racing Indy cars for the VCO series, I believe, as well as a couple other people. But these guys, Damon, I mean, I'm expecting things to heat up even more for heat number 2, and these drivers, the ones that are going to have to battle the way through the pack, but the ones that didn't have the best heat number 1 absolutely put on a show for heat number 2.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be wanting to do a bit of a recovery drive here, and surprise, this is one of the first times this entire season Gael Valero is starting in pole position. He is one of the probably the driver with the highest chance of managing to pull away from the rest of the pack. So we'll have to see whether or not he'll be able to do so. Because behind him, Dino Felipa, a very competitive guy. In fact, actually pipped Valero a couple of times as well in some of the races. So he's not out of the woods. And this launch after the formation lap and the rolling start is going to be super important.
So here we go. And I think honestly out here, this is probably one of the longest formation laps that we've seen all season long. I mean, I know out here there's a lot of tracks and sometimes you have pretty short run up to the start and other ones that definitely you don't want to be out here too long, but it gives plenty of ample time. Like we've seen these drivers really get as much heat in the tires as they can before they even hit lap number 1. Heat up those brakes, heat up those tires. And I think, that's really what led to not seeing an absolute collision on turn 1 last heat. So we'll have to see if they're able to do that again. There were still some lap number 1 incidents going on. A few of the drivers maybe pushing it just a little bit too hard, getting a little too close to each other. Some of the guys spinning out and unfortunately taking out other drivers. So hopefully we see what can happen. Right there, your points leader on pole position, Gael Valero. The battle ensues between him and Bruno De Carmo. So right now, seeing where they finished last race, Bruno De Carmo finishing just a little bit higher. But like I said, that was pretty sure that was the strategy that Gael Valero was going to go for, is, hey, I'm just going to wait in the pits. I'm going to hold on to that 15th place position and get pole for heat number 2. He came out, and it looks like he's doing that so far. So we'll have to see if that pays off for him. He's able to defend a grueling 20 minutes out here at Algarve. So Damon will have to see if he's able to close out right here and get enough points over Bruno De Carmo to close out the championship.
Yeah, but we'll have to remember Bruno De Carmo is also starting pretty far up the pack as well. So this contest could be really tight between the two of them. And Gael Valero would end up still having to race next weekend, the final weekend of AMX Global Season 5, in order to really cement his position at the top of the driver standing. But that will be Ben. This is right now. We're going to have to see whether or not they'll be able to keep fighting this time around. And if AMX didn't go by, even if turn 1 is safe, usually the first lap is going to be where most of the action happens. I use that word very loosely.
So here we go, as we are moments away from going green out here. Heat number 2 out at Algarve. We'll have to see if our points leader can hold on to it. He's going to be setting the pace out here for lap number 1 as the Porsche safety car now making its way off the track. So here we go, folks. Gael Valero, let's see if he can get a great launch and leave everyone else behind.
Here it comes. They're setting off with Gael Valero. Pretty good launch for him, not getting bogged down by the gear shifts. And the other two drivers here, Bruno De Carmo, making it up into second ahead of Dino Filippo as they're coming into turn 1 there. Ooh, forcing Dino Filippo off. We already seen the car go off there. I think that might have been the car of Diego Villarreal going very, very wide there. Turn 1, relatively safe, but again, we're not out of the woods just yet. And Gael Valero, Bruno De Carmo with that 1-2 right now. Dino Filippo. Ooh, I just saw Tim State go off as well. And Bruno De Carmo, I think, went pretty wide. So no big accidents, no big crashes, but definitely a few drivers misjudging their braking points or braking way too big in order to cement their position here.
So like we said there, so unfortunately Tim State getting sent down the line. Now we have Gael Valero, Bruno De Carmo, Dino Filippo, your top 3. So 3 amazing drivers out here. I expect, unless Gael Valero is able to just start clawing away, which I don't really think is going to happen, Damon. I think these drivers right here, I have a pretty good feeling we're going to have an amazing 3-way battle for first place going on out here. But for right now, definitely it is all between Gael Valero, Bruno De Carmo. Gael Valero trying to just inch away in the points so that way he can. But it looks like where they're sitting right now, if this is any indication of where they're going to be in the future coming into next week, and I'd say it's very likely that if these guys can just keep it clean out here in heat number 2, Gael Valero is absolutely going to have to come back next weekend to hold on to that championship and close it out. So here we go, these guys trying to go. Gael Valero doing the snaking back and forth, not trying to give Bruno De Carmo that much of a draft, but these guys, it is all going to come down to this leading into next weekend. But we'll have to see Bruno De Carmo forcing Gael Valero to hold on to that championship.
And you know, it really says something what I thought, like that entire interaction between those two drivers when you fast forward. That's just how fast these cars are, especially when you're reaching the end of the street. I think you're rapidly approaching 80 to 90 pace. And here is the replay of the crash early on in the race. That is Gaston Couhavi getting forced off and then bumping Tim State off into the runoff. And Tim was able to recover, but Gaston Couhavi unfortunately was not. The rest of the drivers doing an absolutely fantastic job of avoiding any major incidents. But aside from that, however, Gaston Couhavi, not a great weekend for him.
Yeah, that one looking like that could have been a lot worse. Unfortunately, Tim State did get the short end of the stick there. The other drivers able to keep on going, but that's a hard place to be too. Whenever you get sandwiched in between yourself and another couple of cars, like I said, definitely could have been worse. But right now, still the battle going on. It looks like we have our top 5 drivers starting to form a bit of a train. Gael Valero still leading the pack, followed by Bruno De Carmo and Dino Filippo. So once again, we have a few drivers behind Gustavo Ariel kind of closing out the back of that train. still a little bit of a gap between 5th and 6th place as well. So Toby Soriano trying to do what he can to catch back up to these guys, but what we've seen last heat right now, Toby Soriano actually just setting the fastest lap on that last lap. So these guys, we'll have to see if they're able to work together. I'm not sure if they're going to try and walk away from the rest of the pack. We'll have to just wait and see, but absolutely, Dino Filippa, another driver not to discount out here, still on 3rd place, but he has been hunting down Bruno De Carmo, slowly closing down that gap. So we'll have to see if Dino Filippa, very much a contender out here to win this race as well, Damon.
Yeah, and the one thing that I really want to bring to everyone's attention is just the fact that, like, we've seen nearly all the drivers in the top 5 here battle their way up to the front of the pack from behind. Now you can see just how it is when they end up at the front of the pack and they just manage, they just have to be there to run around. But here comes Dino Filippa, looking to see if he can try to go for a dive on the front of the car there. However, he was not close enough to make it happen. That doesn't mean that Dino Filippa is out of the woods just yet, that he knows for a fact that Dino Filippa is going to be looking for that position away. The Bruno De Carmo is doing his best to defend, but every single second that these two spend fighting is another second where Gustavo Ariel can just pounce on him like a hungry puma and try to seize that position away from Tubo.
So here we go. So now lap number 4 of 13 out here is still Gael Valero, Bruno De Carmo, and Dino Filippa, your top 3 drivers. So there's still less than half a second between all of these guys. So definitely, I think it's going to come down to who is really able to be extremely consistent out here. Like we said, a lot of these guys not trying to make too many crazy moves out there, but what we've seen yesterday and we've seen even earlier on, once that halfway point of the race hits, it's like someone flips a switch and these drivers say, all right, I need to start pushing harder than I have pushed. I need to do what I can to get that next place. But, right here, getting into the heat of things, Gustavo Ariel, who's now flashing his lights at Dino Filippa, saying, all right, man, I'm here, and I'm here to get on the podium. You better watch out. I'm going to move you out of my way. Things are about to get heated up. So now, what was a 3-way battle for the lead may be very well turning into a 4-way battle. We'll have to check up on the deltas. It looking like, just how close Gustavo Ariel is behind Dino Filippa. And now look at the inside. Gustavo Ariel, a very gutsy move right there. Now door to door between Gustavo Ariel and Dino Filippa. There's contact made. And it looks like Dino Filippa now getting slowed down the most out of that. So unfortunately, Gustavo Ariel and Dino Filippa right there getting into each other's the door. But that put Dino Filippa all the way back down to 7th place. So not sure if the racing stewards will have to say anything about that, or if that might just be a racing incident. Both of those drivers doing what they can to try and get to that 3rd place position. But nonetheless, the result, Gustavo Ariel now sitting on podium contention.
Ah, man, that's no way to treat a teammate of yours, man. But looking forward to the fight in front here. Bruno De Carmo managing to slash the distance between him and Gael Valero down to less than 2/10 of a second. Meanwhile, Gustavo Ariel, because he was held up by that battle earlier on in the pack, he is slightly behind, not by much, only about a second separating him and the front 2 runners here. But Gael Valero, he is under a considerable amount of pressure. Maybe it'll be okay for him to just let Bruno De Carmo pass and then get him later on. But here is the incident between Dino Filippa and Gustavo Ariel here. Gustavo goes for a very, very gutsy move. But as he tries to cut back into the middle of the track to get a better line into the next left-hander, he taps the side of Dino Filippa's car, gets forced off the track. Dino Filippa manages to recover, but struck off way too much speed and gives Toby Soriano as well as Juan Blenat opportunities to pass him there.
Yeah, like I said, that one's going to be a hard one to call. Like I said, both drivers just trying to do what they can, a bit aggressive. We might have that be just knocked down as a racing incident, but like I said, that is why we have the official racing stewards out here to make sure that these guys keep it clean and fair. So we'll have to see after the race what happens, but still, Gael Valero still holding on from the beginning of the race. Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo sitting in those top 2 spots, but now, like we've seen, Gustavo Ariel is in the hunt. He also wants that win out here today. So throw that in the mix, and this may very well be changing things up for our top 2 championship points leaders, as well as, seeing a lot of these guys. We've seen a lot of fast guys that some people may be asking, hey man, why aren't these guys, the likes of David Toth, Gustavo Ariel, some of these guys, how come they're not at the very top of the championship in overall points? And I mean, the really big thing is we see a lot of these guys that they're, especially now, trying to do all the sim races. They have a lot of other commitments as well. So definitely the consistency to win the championship here is you pretty much have to be here for every single race, and that has been a huge thing. Gustavo Ariel, Bruno De Carmo, very consistent drivers, been here for pretty much every single race. So don't knock any of the guys whether or not they are fast or slow, because to be on that top spot, no matter what, you have to be quick. To be anywhere on the podium out here at AMX, you have to be one of the best drivers in the world.
Yeah, the level of competition here at AMX is just absolutely peak. And picture, Tomas Simon there going a bit too far over the curve and then just losing it on the re-entry. He crashes over his own rear wing and then stops another driver from coming in to get past him. And that's Tomas Simon's race, I guess, completely out back in the pits. And then the sign says out, which really bowed out of this particular key. So unfortunate for him. Meanwhile, the car in front here will on board with Gustavo Ariel, and he is less than 3/10 of a second behind Bruno De Carmo, who is 4/10 of a second behind Gal Valero. So these three cars on the podium are very, very close to one another. The positions could switch at any time.
That too, looking at them. So I mean, I'm looking at their sets too. So looking like Gustavo Ariel may have changed a few things up. I know both of these drivers out here on screen, both of them have been streaming a lot. So you guys, they definitely they've plugged out their Twitch channels out there. So not only are they out here on AMX, you can catch them out during the rest of the week too. So a lot of drivers we get to see. Definitely, I'd say, have made it pretty good out here sim racing, but also just streaming on Twitch. We see everyone, especially showing all the love for the Brazilian drivers. We see out there chat, both on Twitch and YouTube, these guys showing their support for their fellow countrymen. So all those that Gustavo Ariel, Bruno De Carmo are not on the same team right now, they are definitely still putting it down for Brazil. So great move. And speaking of great move, Bruno De Carmo right there looking to the inside, trying to overtake Gael Valero, but Gael Valero just having enough of a run. Here we go, back to the inside. So door to door, we have that, and looking to go now 3 wide. We have Gustavo Ariel on the three-way battle for the lead. Man, I just can't get away. No, there goes Gustavo. Oh no, not Gustavo. There goes Gael Valero. Unfortunately, these guys. So, man, just unfortunately, door to door, side by side, Bruno De Carmo and Gael Valero. Unfortunately, Gael Valero getting spun out on the track. Now, like I said, I don't know if I cursed it or just called it earlier, but Gustavo Ariel getting in the mix of things, definitely shaking it up for the other two drivers.
And all of a sudden, the battle for the podium spots has switched positions. Gustavo Ariel is now in front. Kobe Soriano and Juan Playinot there. Another couple of very, very fast drivers that people are contesting bright yellow Cadillacs here. Actually, I think Juan Playinot might be the BMW. But yeah, man, that was really unfortunate for Gael Valero there. He tried to close the door onto Bruno De Carmo, just couldn't make it happen, ended up getting pitted out and then spinning out, managing to recover. However, he is in P10, which is a terrible spot to be in.
Man, look at that. I think that is the first time that I've seen the drivers try to go 3 wide on this track through the turns. Like, I mean, we've seen exactly why you don't want to do that, but here is a full screen replay, seeing what's going on. So like we said, 3 wide right there, Gustavo Ariel on the outside, so almost squeezing him in, but there, as we see, just Gael Valero just couldn't hold on to the inside quite, going to the outside, and it looked like Bruno De Carmo was trying to hold down and slowed down quite a bit. I'm not sure if he was hoping to, I mean, obviously you don't want to be spinning out someone else, even no matter who's at fault. You just hate to see that. You want that battle to continue, but unfortunately that slows both of them down, and Gael Valero getting the worst of that, letting Gustavo Ariel take away with the lead. I see chat out there too. Yeah, definitely. And through goes Ariel. So Gustavo Ariel absolutely able to capitalize on that. Now maybe taking home the win here in heat number 1.
Yeah, Gustavo Ariel really on track for that. We've got about 4 laps remaining in the race, and Bruno De Carmo actually lost a position to Ralph Benitez there. Ralph went in for the hard pass and got it ahead of him. So Bruno De Carmo maybe a little bit shaken up by that incident there. Probably not as much as Gael Valero. In fact, here comes David off through him as well. Actually, considering how much he's losing positions, I'm willing to wager that he might have suffered a little bit of aero damage on his car. But taking that position away back from David Hoff. David Hoff is fending off Peter Zuba at the same time. So Bruno Carmo, despite being forced back, he's still not out of the woods. He still has to defend the position that he is in. Oh, love tap from David Hoff into the back of Bruno Carmo's car, forcing him into a slide, and he goes wide, loses 2 more positions. And, oh man, I feel like we should stop talking about Bruno Carmo, because every time we try to point something out, he just ends up losing it, and then we jinx him, and then another love tap from Peter Zuba into the back of David Hoff. What is going on here?
Man, I mean, definitely these drivers being extremely aggressive out here, but that's one thing that I can say too, out here, these tires. So if you make one mistake, it makes it that much easier to compound. Once those tires, you start sliding out, you lock up your brakes. It's going to take a little bit for those tires to kind of cool back down. And once you overheat them like that, you start losing grip, and it's that much easier to just go into the other drivers. But right now, we're on lap number 10 of 13. It looks like Gustavo Ariel's starting to slowly pull away from Toby Soriano, and Juan Blanat doing his best to stick to the back of Toby Soriano. So we might have the 2 Argentinian drivers right here trying to battle it out for that second place position. So we do have, like I said, Toby Soriano, Juan Blanat now, Dino Filippa and Ralph Benitez also battling it out for that 4th place position. So we got a couple of battles going on our hands. A lot of these guys, amazing drivers. I'd say right now it looks like everyone in the top 7, no one lower than 7,000 iRating. So these guys just being absolutely crazy out here. A lot of them 9,000 plus iRating out here today. Gustavo Ariel 11,000. So these guys have been putting in the work in the sim for years, winning races, doing what they can, coming out here in AMX and showing the best of the best, some of the highest levels of competition that we always see. And I think that's what I really love the most about the GTP cars, is it really brings out the best in these top level drivers as far as just pushing it to the absolute limit. So definitely we'll have to see though, as Dino Filippa still trying to defend on Ralph Benitez. Ralph Benitez trying to get a little bit more of an inside line, but not quite having the grip right there. Dino Filippa still holding on, being a little bit faster in front of him. So we'll have to see if they get in the draft, how that's going to shake things up. But we only have a few laps left out here, folks. Heat number 2, AMX race number 44.
Yeah, drawing to a close here, but here comes Ralph Benitez trying for the pass on turn 1. Ooh, a little bit of contact there, forcing Dino Filippa to close the door on him, but Ralph Benitez is not giving up the assault just yet. Dino Filippa may have got the spot back. Ooh, Ralph Benitez just took out Dino Filippa's wing. He's going to suffer a lot there. He's lost the grip. That rear wing is so important for downforce, especially in the mid-P section. And Dino Filippa, lacking that rear wing, is just completely out of it. No more testing from him. That is all she wrote.
Man, and that's absolutely heartbreaking to see there of Dino Filippa putting up such a good run there. And unfortunately, once, like you said, once you lose that rear wing, that is kind of it. You will have no grip trying to go around those corners, especially some of these higher speed corners out here. Algarve being one of those that you do not want to have that happen. So luckily, it could have been a lot worse, but the result was still the same, him ending up having to go into the pits. So we'll see if he's able to get back out on track to at least try to make up some track position in these last couple of laps. We'll have to wait and see. We see a full screen replay right here. So we have him going in and just into the rear end of Dino Filippa, slowed down quite a bit. And I'm not sure if Ralph Benitez was just not expecting that much of a slowdown. But like we said, nonetheless, we'll have to see if there's any front damage done. And right here, back into the side of him as well. That's one that we didn't catch the first time quite as much. So with the comeback, like we said, unfortunately, Dino Filippa did take the short end of the stick there. He did get the worst of that incident. So we'll have to see. But now it is still all Gustavo Ariel, Toby Soriano, and Juan Blanat, as Toby Soriano in second place and Juan Blanat in third. Still now going side by side, door to door. These guys, we'll have to see how they do going into the final lap. But for right now, Juan Blanat absolutely not letting go of that. He's like a dog with a bone, not wanting to let go, saying, nope, I'm going to do what I can to try and get up into that second place position. And these guys battling it out is leaving plenty of room for Gustavo Ariel to walk away with the win in heat number 2.
Yeah, and Juan Blanat is one of those drivers that we know to be absolutely brilliant at racing here. As you can see now, he's still trying to make a pass on to Toby Soriano. Hasn't been able to do that just yet as he's coming into the next lap-hander here. doesn't have the inside track just yet, and the gap between them is now too far to try and make it happen. And going back to my original point, Juan Blena is one of those drivers that we know is super good, but this season he really hasn't been able to get much in terms of success. He's gotten finishes where he is on the podium, he's in the top 5, but never really a race win, and it's put a damper on his championship for the time being. But this could look to be a boost for him, especially coming into the next weekend later on.
Yeah, definitely. So like we said, some of these drivers out here, a lot of stuff going on. So we'll have to see. Like we said, Gustavo Ariel with that incident earlier between Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo, let him just sweep right in and take the lead away from those guys. So now Gustavo Ariel leading with ease. And as professional of a driver as I know that he is, I expect him to be staying in there unless he just makes a very uncharacteristic mistake. But right now, it is still all Toby Soriano, Juan Blena still trying to battle it out for that second and third place position. So these guys doing a great job. And right here, we'll have to see who gets a better run. Still looking like Toby Soriano, who we've seen in heat number 1, getting a little bit aggressive into some of the drivers as well. But I mean, that is the thing. You have to find that fine line of being very aggressive or not aggressive enough. Because if you're not aggressive enough, you're not going to be up on the podium like these guys are right here. So we have to see. It's just a few turns left out here in lap number 13. The white flag has been flying. These guys are out here also flying in these cars. The only thing left is for them to grow some wings and take off. So we see with only about a quarter of the track remaining, Damon, we'll have to see who's going to come out on top right here.
I mean, it's pretty easy to say. I think Gustavo Ariel's pretty much got this in the bag, but the battle between Juan Blena and Toby Soriano is heating up as they're about to approach the end of the lap here. Going to be coming into the start-finish straight very, very shortly, and Juan Blena is way too far ahead to make something happen, but here comes Gustavo Ariel across the finish line. Well-deserved win for him. Toby Soriano managing to keep Juan Blena at bay, so he's going to have to settle some third place there. Ralph Benitez in P4. Zuba running out of top 5, and David Top, Pedro Dean, Gal Valero. Actually, Gal Valero making up another 2 positions and finishing ahead of Bruno De Carmo is absolutely crucial to keeping him ahead of Bruno De Carmo for the final weekend of AMX Season 5.
Oh, definitely. So, I mean, seeing these guys, especially a lot of the guys that are out here today are also in the AMX 20 race. I mean, I really hope this gives a good preview for what we get to see next weekend to close out the season. Couldn't ask for a better thing. We've had AMX 20 heat up, and a lot of these drivers on the grid today are the reason that has been such a great series so far. So we'll have to see. Like I said, things definitely coming to a close out here. We have next weekend left, but before we even end up closing out, I mean, well, we have to wait for all the drivers too. But I mean, just a quick recap. Things were looking like we might have been having a 3-way battle going on probably, hopefully, until the last half of the race. But like we said, we had that one incident. Unfortunately, you do not want to go 3 wide out here on some of these tight turns. And that's what happens as we see their last driver just celebrating, man, hey, saying, all right, at least I finished. Which sometimes, hey, man, that's all you can ask for whenever you've had some crazy races out here. But nonetheless, that leaves our BenQ session winner, Gustavo Ariel, the Team Redline driver, laying it out here for his team, for his country, sitting in that top spot for heat number 2. Second place, we have Toby Soriano, who's battling it out all the way to the very end with third place, Juan Blena. So great from the Argentinian drivers right there too. Fourth place, we have Ralph Benitez. In fifth, Peter Zuba, who's been very consistent all day long. We'll have to see where he sits with the official race results at the end of the day. Sixth place, we have David Toff. Seventh, Pedro Dean. Eighth place, Gael Valero. Ninth place, Martin Chico. 10th, Tim State. 11th, Evandro Dantas. 12th, Bruno De Carmo. 13th place, Diego Villarreal. 14th, Dino Filippa. 15th, Tomas Simon. And looks like Gaston Culavi, unfortunately, retiring out of this one early, with Toby Soriano setting the fastest lap out here in heat number 2. But man, like I said, it was just an absolutely crazy turn of events from heat number 1 to heat number 2. Just action throughout the entire time. So we'll have to see. Like I said, we'll try to get some words from some of the drivers out here, see what happened during their race. But man, Damon, just absolutely another great one. I think ending the season on this, we're definitely I have a good feeling we're going to end it on a high if next weekend is anything like it was this weekend.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the drivers are gonna be bringing out their A+ game, 110% effort, and really trying to solidify that position as the top of the cream of the crop. Gal Valero here, amazing race for him during ACC. Unfortunately, couldn't replicate the same result in the iRacing part with the GTP part. So he's going to be looking to make sure he sends the message that he is the best of the best on next weekend. The final weekend of AMX Season 5. I can't believe we're saying this already. Feels like the season started the following.
Awesome. So, like we said, we'll have to see where things are on the official results, especially between, Bruno De Carmo and Gael Valero. Like we said earlier on at the beginning of this race, Gael Valero had to be leading by more than 90 points by the end of today to unofficially be crowned the champion, leading in a week early. But I mean, just seeing the battle back and forth between these guys, we'll definitely have to see. But now we're going to head into the interview room with another person who's looking like he is also going to be taking home a champion. All right, so I'm joined here with David Toth. David, great racing out there today. Things have been great also all season long. I want to say a bit of a preemptive congratulations. You've been killing it out there for AMX 20. Definitely things were getting really close there, especially Heat 1, Heat number 2. From your point of view, what was probably the turning point for you today?
Hello. It was a bit chaotic 2 races. I was quite lucky in the first race. I could avoid every big incident, and I was behind Pedro, who had very good pace. So I'm happy that I could overtake him because it wasn't easy. And to be honest, the second race was very enjoyable. I had an unfortunate contact with Bruno. I said already sorry to him because it might have been my fault. But it was a great racing, and it was awesome.
Awesome. As well as one thing we noticed today, and we just want to, kind of clear things up. Right now, we had a little bit of speculation. So we noticed you were not using the Drago Racing livery today. So was that just something you're not, just didn't have a livery for the car today? Or does that mean that you are possibly not with the team anymore?
No, I'm still with Drago. I don't know if we have a new Cadillac livery yet, but if we have, it's my fault because I forgot to upload it. And I'm not wearing my Drago jersey today, but I'm still in Drago and I'm still very happy to be there.
Okay, awesome. And I've also seen some of the other series. So how would you say AMX compares to another racing series such as now, I believe you're in the IndyCar series as well. How would you say that AMX compares to that?
I think it's very close to that level. It's in the qualifying, the top speed is crazy fast, and I would say it's fairly without big incidents. And pace-wise, I think AMX guys is still there for sure. So I like to race in both championships.
Awesome. Well, we're glad that you're able to make it out here today. And like we said, we'll hopefully see you next weekend as well to be able to take home that championship for AMX 20. So again, great racing. Thanks for coming out here today. And like we said, we hope to see you next weekend.
Thank you, Kevin. I'll be there.
Awesome. So there we got to hear from the man himself. David Toth still is with Drago Racing Team. So glad that we did clear that up. I just wanted to make sure, like I said, don't want to start any rumors out here. I'd rather talk to the drivers themselves. So David Toth looking now like he is in the lead. It's not looking like it. He is in the lead for the AMX 20 championship. So great to see him out here today in AMX 5. We haven't seen him too much this season. And he's expecting to make it back next week as well. So next one we have here, Gustavo Ariel. Gustavo, I feel like we meet up time and time again back here in the interview room. So it's great to have you back here. what was going through your mind whenever, from our point of view, as soon as we seen 3 wide, we were expecting just chaos. So what was going through your mind whenever you're going 3 wide with you, Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo?
Well, to be honest, was quite a tough one. I think before that I had a little moment with Dino, and I say sorry to him because we're moving on different lines, so we have a bit of glue, but it was going to crash anyway. Great. I think he was still going, but I think he had a problem after. But yeah, it was quite nice to drive here. Like a straightforward, I find a bit of pace with the Caddy on the practice, and going to qualifying was a little bit tricky to decide the right lap for the tires, because the right moment to warm up the tires. Sometimes you do good lap 1, sometimes you do good lap 2, so it was quite a difficult one to fight from the pole position, but I was happy to start P3. And yeah, race 1 was a bit chaotic. I lose the rear wing on lap 1 already, so I had to do tow. I did the fastest lap of the race after the fast repair. So for the second one, you mentioned the incident with Bruno and Gael. I think I was just like keeping my line on the outside, and then I saw 2 cars on the mirror just crashing, and we start to laugh on the stream because it was very close, almost take me out as well, and I had no vision, on the right side here. So yeah, it was quite a fun race. I managed to put my pace after that one. We saw 57 degrees track temp after, so yeah, it was quite hot today, and intense battles as well. So it was a great racing.
Also, and I'm looking at your background now. So is this all new setup just for streaming, or did you kind of set things up? I know I've kind of seen some stuff on your Instagram as well, kind of hinting towards some stuff.
Yeah.
So what's going on with all the change there?
No, I can show for you guys. This is a new camera. We're trying to stream a bit of my point of view. I'm putting also new lights here. I can control the colors and stuff. So we're trying to make these things a bit more professional. Of course, not streaming the important races because we have the Team Redline streaming that one. So just having a bit of changing here, a bit more professional, taking care of the light, taking care of the microphone sound, and the experience for the viewers. So we're trying to make things better. And of course, for you guys doing a great broadcast, you know how the small things is very important to have a bit of a good show for who's watching and to entertain everyone. So we're trying to change a bit, to have the helmet on the background as well, my iRacing helmet. So yeah, we're trying to change a bit of these things. So it's quite fun to do these things properly, pedal cam, and some little things to have fun with the shot.
And the final question. So earlier on, I'm going to ask you the same question that I got to ask David Toth. Considering that you're also in the Pro IndyCar series now too, as well as the VCO IndyCar, so getting to see you guys out there, how does that compare to something like AMX?
Yeah, to be honest, AMX is more straightforward. Like you don't have too much strategy. You just need to have a bit of lucky, to be honest, to avoid the incidents. Of course, it's a good practice because we're doing a lot of last to first races for sure. This helps on the AMX because you have inverted grid, so you need to have a bit more of strategy on qualifying, mainly because you have open qualifiers. I think the qualifying side is a bit more difficult to put the lap in. The level is quite high, so you have a lot of plus 9k drivers. So yeah, I think the level it's very close. Of course, we have open setup on these IndyCar races. We have the oval, so we need to adapt a little bit of more things because it's not just by driving. Here it's nice because you have different cars, you have driving techniques, you have different tracks, you have oval, you have road, you have NASCAR, you have a lot of things. So it's more on driver here. I think there's more on setup, is more the preparation. Here's more you sit and drive and you need to perform, and you need to be very clever to avoid some incidents. So for sure, who is winning or who is finishing on top 5 here, every race is a very clever guy, and his adaptability with the setups for everyone here is driving in the front. It's very nice. So it's a good practice for this kind of top races because you need to adapt soon. You need to don't crack on the pressure with these things happen. So yeah, I love this format, and I'm very happy to race here every time I can. Of course, scheduling the team with other drivers. So, yeah, I'm really happy to take part again.
Awesome. Well, we love seeing you out here too. And the same thing. Good luck to you. Good luck to Team Redline out there. I know you guys have a lot of series going on. Things are heating up probably for everyone. We've seen a lot of people missing yesterday. So I just want to say, thanks for joining us again. I'm sure this is not the last time that we'll see you in the interview room. So until next time, and hopefully we get to see you next weekend as well.
Yeah, thank you guys. And we have real racing this year as well with the Racing Prodigy. So me and Dino banking doors here, and we're going to maybe bank doors on the real life too. So he's my teammate there. And yeah, it will be a good time as well driving these World Championships. This real racing, so it's a good time for racing MX and all of these competitions. See you next time.
Awesome. Once again, congratulations on the win. Great to have you here. And we'll have to see with that, folks. Man, just another great interview. I think we're going to have to, we have probably our top 5 drivers that we see all the time in here. Going to have to do some other. I said, Gustavo Ariel, always great to have in the booth, always great to talk to him. We've seen him here develop as a driver, only get better and better. Like we've seen a couple seasons ago, him joining AMX, and the rest is history, as we said at the start of the stream when we first had him hop on. But Damon, after that, getting to hear too, it's great to hear from these drivers that, hey, we always say AMX is some of the best racing out there, and to have that confirmed by actual professional sim racing drivers that are in the Pro Series definitely is, just awesome to hear. But I think we are now going to see what the official results are for today's race. So I have a few drivers that I'm pretty sure are going to be towards the top. I know we've seen Peter Zuba being very consistent, and that consistency absolutely paid off with Peter Zuba walking home your overall race winner out here for race 44. Coming in second place, we just got to hear from Gustavo Ariel, as well as third place, David Toth. So your top 3 for today. In fourth, we got Toby Soriano. Fifth place, Ralph Benitez. Sixth, Juan Blanat. Seventh place, Pedro Dean. Eighth, Martin Chico. Ninth, Evandro Dantas. And in 10th place, Gael Valero. So we'll have to see exactly what the official results come in. I know at the top of everyone's mind, Damon, looks like Gael Valero may very well have to come back next weekend to fight off Bruno De Carmo once again.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much going to be a given because he couldn't extend the lead to the point where he really felt comfortable sitting his race out. And even if he did get enough points, I don't think he would be the sort of person to just sit it out, especially if there's no reason to. He wants to be there on the track. He wants to be there to send a message and make sure that everyone knows he's one of the best drivers we have in AMX.
Absolutely. So, like I said, folks, it has been another great day of racing out here. We got to close up the Assetto Corsa Competizione today, the final race of that. And next week, I expect to have an amazing finale. So make sure to tune in next Saturday and Sunday as we begin to close out the season. And we'll see which champions we will be officially crowning after next weekend's races. But in the meantime, make sure to follow all of our social medias, AMX Global, Twitch, X, YouTube, Twitter, the likes. Well, I said X and Twitter. They're the same thing now, but make sure to follow all of our social, as well as watch a replay of any of the races. Share it with your friends, family, and also head over to amxrace.com to get signed up if you want to hit us. We have one more AMX Zero race. That is a great place to get started. And depending on how things go next weekend, I might be able to see some of you back on the track. I was out there last AMX Zero, so we'll have to see. But signing off from AMX, I'm Kevin alongside Damon. We will see you all next weekend.